With the recent events surrounding Donald Trump, students of Bible prophecy know that we've crossed an important inflection point. The world and the U.S. are being cemented into the Great Delusion, and people will soon marvel after the beast. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome back. Thanks so much for being here. This is the Dance of Life podcast, and I'm your host, as always, Tudor Alexander. I didn't think I would make another Venerable Day of the Sun episode so soon, but here we are, only, I think like 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, maybe at most, from the last one, because so many things have happened. My inbox has exploded with questions and various articles and different things people are sending me. And it's just so much has happened because of, obviously, the events surrounding Donald Trump. So it's important to get a perspective on everything that's happening and to realize that Bible prophecy is being fulfilled. Not in the way most people think of it as being fulfilled, but it is being fulfilled. And nonetheless, we are headed towards what the Bible warned about 2,000 years ago, with a one-world system that's going to enforce worship. And of course, if you don't play along, you will be punished and you will be extricated from society. So this is the future that we're headed to, and that future is very shortly on the horizon, folks. You need to come to terms with that. So I hope that people who are maybe still needing to wake up on certain things, like with Trump and with the idea that there's a political solution to the world's spiritual problems, hopefully these episodes will help you. And if you are already woken up, that these episodes will arm you and empower you to speak to those around you. That's what it's really about, folks. We live in such an exciting time. It's a crazy time. It is a clown show. This is the epic, clown show of the history of the universe. I don't think history has ever been this much of a clown show, with deception and false signs and wonders. And, a world where you see everything on a little screen and you don't know if it's real or not. This is madness. Yet, God has called you by giving you this knowledge that you are not wrapped up in the Great Delusion, that you can see these people and not be part of it. God has given you this as a gift so that you can participate in Him drawing out the elect from Babylon. Revelation 18:4 says, "Get out of her, my people." And Jesus says in John 6, that nobody can come to Him unless the Father who sent Him draws them. So put one and one together, what does that mean? That means that the people who do come out of Babylon in Revelation 18:4 are coming out because the Father is drawing them to Christ. So we are not responsible for rescuing people. However, if God has given you knowledge and understanding, you are called, I believe, to participate in God's work in drawing these people out. So we plant the seeds, we water, we do things in the garden, we maintain the flowers, but ultimately God gives the growth. And that's the profound mystery of faith. I have a video in my Dark to Light playlist on Trump as of the 13th with the whole thing that happened. So go watch it, get some perspective there. I talk about the three possibilities, and of course, really, in my mind, there's only one possibility, but really there's three possibilities, and there are no other possibilities besides these. The first possibility is that it was a lone wolf gunman, which is what the liberal media is telling you. The second possibility is the counter-narrative to the liberal media, which is that it was an inside job by the deep state. And of course, the narrow road option, in my opinion, is neither right nor left, because I think they're baiting you really hard to believe that this was an inside job. They've been conditioning you for the last 4 years that, look, the deep state is doing this, they're doing that, they're doing, all these different things. So that when they could pull this off, your automatic reaction, because you've been programmed, is to believe that it's a psyop. Well, that's the psyop, folks. And whether you believe that or not, I think there's very convincing evidence to believe that Trump was in on it. This is a staged event designed to propel him forward, to cement people into delusion, into idolatry, and to crossed the inflection point. That's what we're talking about today. We've crossed an inflection point, folks. This is a major inflection point. And again, what I said in the beginning of this is if you're a student of Bible prophecy, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This proves that Trump will come to power. This proves that if Trump comes to power, then he's going to enforce a Christian nationalist system. He's going to be a puppet of the Pope. Who knows? I mean, he might even convert to Catholicism. That would be something. But whether he does or not doesn't matter. It confirms the trajectory of the Bible that we've been talking about for years. And I'm not saying I'm the only one talking about it. There are other people, not too many, but there are people talking about these things, and it confirms that this is the truth. And whether you believe it was an inside job, or you believe that the narrative of it being an inside job is a psyop, doesn't matter, actually. It really doesn't matter. And that was my point in that whole video, is that, look, you can get caught up in these debates forever. The point is not which one was it. I believe it was a psyop, that he was in on it. That's what I believe. But it doesn't matter. What matters is the result is still the same. Do you get it? The result is still the same. People are idolizing Trump. It vindicates him as being anointed by God and chosen to be the chosen warrior against the big bad deep state. And, you know, he's super popular now. I mean, there's so many benefits. Perfect timing right before the Republican National Convention. Of course, he shows you his true colors by picking a militant Catholic for vice president. And we'll be talking about that today. But look, it doesn't matter what happened. What matters is that it confirms the trajectory of history, which is what we've been talking about in all of these episodes, and we will continue to do so. So either way, I believe that they're trying to bait you into believing that that there was an inside job against Trump. Because again, if you believe that, this is how, to me, again, I know it's a psyop. If you believe that, it immediately polarizes you. Do you see it? If you believe that, it immediately polarizes you into an emotional position. Well, if it's an inside job, then how did Trump escape? It must have been an act of God. He therefore must be in position because God is having him do this special role against the evil powers that are out to get him. Do you understand how this works? There's no neutral position. Of course, the neutral position is, yeah, he was in on it. And this is just another smoke and mirror trick to manipulate you. That's the narrow road approach, in my opinion. But either way, it doesn't matter. You have to realize the consequences are the same. And today we're going to be talking about those consequences and looking at those consequences, specifically his pick for vice president, and what does that entail? Some results of the things that have happened over the last few weeks are the Christian right is even more solidified in Trump. People believe that Trump is coming to rescue them. They genuinely believe that now. They're frothing at the mouth for it. Look at these people with the Band-Aids on their ears at these rallies. It's so funny, you know, the conservatives were mocking all the liberals for being monkeys and wearing masks, you know, and, you know, if Fauci says jump like this, you jump like that. If George Floyd says bow down and do this, then you do that. People were making fun of these people, which, you know, to some degree, it is ridiculous what they were doing. But even the same level of ridiculousness is to wear a freaking Band-Aid on your ear to a rally and to basically show your homage for a man you think is going to come and save you. Are you kidding me? That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. So don't use the same standard, folks. That's really what it comes down to. It annoys me so much, and I'm sure it annoys you as well, when people don't use the same standard. Use the same standard. If this had happened to Biden, if Biden was the one on the camera and he turned his head this way and you couldn't see the bullet hitting his ear and he didn't have blood on his hand and, you know, they're accusing some right-wing, you know, crazy person to come and assassinate him. If that had happened to Biden, I'm willing to bet all the money that I have that all of these conservative pundits would have said this is a fake assassination attempt. Pretty sure that would happen. And yet it happens for Trump, who is demonstratedly a secret society member, who's a billionaire, and you don't become a billionaire in this world unless you're owned by the trillionaires and the powers that be. You're not there just willy-nilly because of your own effort. Trump is bought and paid for. He inherited his fortune. His dad was owned by the Zionists. So come on, folks. Watch my 3.5-hour expose on him. You'll see the truth there. So if that's the case, why don't you use the same standard of measurement? That's why, again, I think it's all just nonsense. But either way, people believe Trump is coming to rescue them. Biden has now dropped out. Kamala is the new thing. you have this duality now. And of course, Kamala's the first woman president, and that's, she's a minority too, quote unquote. And so all of these things are now polarizing people even more. And of course, we know that Trump is going to come to power. So these polarizations are only cementing people into their duality. This is about duality, folks, because they're going to reconcile dualities very soon. And that reconciliation will be the New World Order. The New World Order is coming. The Great Reset is coming. Oh, yeah. You thought that was a Klaus Schwab thing? No. The Great Reset is coming, folks, and it's going to be a reset of the media to the conservative right. It's going to be a reset of finances to digital, to a digital system. It's going to be a reset of climate change from secular to moral. It's going to be a reset of AI from this secular thing to a moral thing that we need to use. I've talked about all these things. That's the Great Reset. They revealed the method to you by picking on the dark and say, look, the big bad deep state wants to do a Great Reset. But in fact, they're already planning to do a Great Reset. Do you understand? So this is the way they do things, folks. If they have more nonsense with the election coming up, who knows how they're going to run it. Obviously, at this point, we expect there to be shenanigans. The question is, how long is it going to last? I don't think there will be a civil war. People think, is there going to be a civil war? I don't think so. I don't think they have time for a civil war. The Catholic Church has a jubilee in 2025, and the Lucis Trust with the UN is all about love and light in 2025. There's Project 2025. They don't have time for a civil war, folks. Plus, they know Jesus is returning soon. Look at the rate things are going. They don't have time for another, 2 or 3, 4-year civil war in the United States. They don't have time for that. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think there probably will be shenanigans, but ultimately it's going to lead to Trump coming to power and taking control because we've crossed that point now. It's very clear. It's very clear. Either way, the future is conservative. It's going to be hardcore nationalist, counterfeit Christianity. And a new word I'm coming up with, and you can let me know what you think about this word, but a new word that came to me yesterday was religious nationalism. I really like that word. I think it's a good word. I'm trying to get away from using Christian nationalism because there's nothing Christian about Christian nationalism. However, people understand what Christian nationalism is because they see it everywhere, right? It's been labeled that way. And of course, we know it's really Catholic nationalism, and it's what the Bible warned you about. So religious nationalism, I think, is a good term for it. But either way, that's the future, folks. It's not Zionist, it's not globalist, it's not Muslim, it's religious nationalist, it's Catholic. Dispensationalist, also another result that's very important. We'll look at an example today, but with Trump inviting Bibi to the White House and promising peace and all this kind of stuff. But dispensationalists, as a result of this event, who think that Trump is the Antichrist because he's the one promising peace to Israel, people are falling so hard for this stuff. It's so crazy. But they're applying all the Revelation 13 imagery to Trump. They're saying, oh, look, it's the mortal wound, and he's healed miraculously, and he's going to bring peace to the Middle East, and that means the tribulations are going to start, and all of this stuff that cements people into the Great Delusion of the Third Temple, which, if you've seen my series titled The Great Delusion, you know exactly the avenue they're going to use the temple for. They're going to use it to convert the Jews and the Muslims, to wrap all of the Zionists and the dispensationalists into Christian or religious nationalism. It's going to happen, folks. The Third Temple is still part of their plan. Hasn't been in the highlight yet because there's a lot of other things that need to happen, but it's happening. They're going to do it. They haven't invested hundreds of years into this false prophecy only to let it, go by the wayside. They're going to do the Third Temple thing. But people who are dispensationalists are falling right into the trap by applying all of this stuff literally to Trump. And of course, what does that mean? That means that they're going to be even more cemented into the Third Temple narrative. Do you see how they have multiple narratives going on of deception? If you aren't as wise as a serpent, like Jesus said, you're done for. You really are. People are cemented into delusion more and more because of this event. And that's proof to you that it's by all signs and wonders of Satan. I'm not saying Trump is the man of sin. I'm saying that the world marveling after the man of sin, which is the Pope. And basically, if you read Thessalonians in context of Revelation 13, they're really talking about the same thing. It's talking about the wound to the beast being healed and the world marveling after this system. And that outcome is what Paul says in Thessalonians. I forget if it's 1 Thessalonians 4, or 1 Thessalonians 2. Anyway, I always get those confused in Thessalonians. But what Paul says about the man of sin is that this outcome of the world marveling after the beast, after the man of sin, will come by all power and signs and wonders of Satan. So this outcome of the world coming to marvel after this system, and you'll see plenty of proof of it today, is by all power and signs and deception of Satan. And if you look at what's happening, people are being cemented into delusion by all of these things, by what happened to Trump, by the third temple, by all these things. This is the Great Delusion, folks. We're in it. And of course, it's only going to get worse. It has barely started as far as I'm concerned. But either way, it's only going to get worse. They don't use consistent standards of judgment. As a result, they get deceived. They also have abandoned the Word of God. They don't build a case for their beliefs. They don't evaluate the evidence. Unless you have the patience to do that, you will be deceived. That's why I make my episodes so comprehensive, so that you can have ample evidence for your beliefs. You don't take my word for it. You look at what the Bible says. You look at what history say. You look at what current events say, and you make your opinion sound and based on reason, not on people's opinions. Remember all the theories about Biden with masks and clones and all these things that people had? Again, people don't use the same standard of judgment. If this had happened to Biden, people would have called it many, many things except genuine. So ultimately, this is where it's at. We've crossed an inflection point. And the question is, why is it a major inflection point? Why? Well, the simple answers are that it proves that Trump is their main man that's going to come to power. He's the anointed one that they're going to bring forward. It proves that. If you had any doubts before that, and certainly some people have had doubts, what if Trump doesn't make it? Well, look at what just happened. He's going to make it. He's the one, folks. That proves that this is the direction things are going. That means that it proves we're headed into a false light system. It proves that this false light system will enforce spiritual obedience through Sabbath laws, as we're covering in these installments, and you'll see ongoing evidence. And it proves ultimately the Bible is true, that God is real, that Jesus is true, that he's coming back to judge this system, and that it's going to get even crazier until that point in time. So today we're going to look at a lot of things, a lot of information. It's going to be very comprehensive, a lot of general headlines that have happened in regards to the rise of religious nationalism, but also we'll focus on Trump, his vice president pick, the consequences of all these things that have happened, and of course the trajectory of history and where it's going. Excuse me. Use the timestamps if necessary. We have a lot to cover today. It's probably going to be a longer episode. We'll see how long it goes. But either way, this is like literally all the stuff that I've collected in the last 2 weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks. Like I said, my inbox has been exploded. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, share it with people, help others grow some Fennec fox ears so they aren't devoured by the devil with all of these false signs and wonders, because people are being devoured. Look at these people with the Band-Aids on their ears, man. They're devoured. And of course, maybe some of those people will be rescued by God from these delusions, but most of them are being devoured. As usual, I'll post the references for this episode, and of course, there's going to be a lot of them. I'll post the references on my website in the post link, so you can check them yourself. You can use them for your own reporting or whatever else you want to do. Thanks to everybody who emailed me various resources. It's really reassuring and fulfilling to see that people are learning and they're coming out of this deception, and they have their own Fennec fox ears and they're sniffing around for stories. That's really cool. That's really cool to me. So thank you everybody who contributed. Keeping your ears perked up, because it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse, folks. If you thought the divisiveness on this issue with Trump was bad, when some people can see what's going on and some people don't, wait till you see more stuff. Wait till they start building the third temple and trying to explain to the rest of the world that this is a false prophecy. This is not the power of God being fulfilled through prophecy. Of course, everything is controlled by God, but this is not going to be the fulfillment of prophecy. Imagine trying to explain that to people. We're just getting started, folks. So, a couple of things, general headlines. This is actually, let me pull this up here. Here we go. This is an email. I had to copy it into a Word document because Gmail is just really stupid when it tries to minimize the window. But anyway, this is an email from this guy from Finland, I believe. We're going to read an article from Finland, which I just thought it was really interesting. I'm like, this should go in my next episode. So I'll read it here. This is, greetings from Finland. I found your channel recently from YouTube and wish to share with you some recent matters that have been happening in this country. I'm not sure how much you know about Finland and Evangelical Lutheran Church here. It's a dominant church, and before the World Wars, almost everyone belonged to it. Now it is roughly 65% of the population. In the 80s, fundamental groups had a lot of trouble belonging to it because the main church gave pastors permission to lead congregations. Oh, really quick. Okay, there we go. One day I'll remember to do this before I start the episode. Anyway, moving on. Now, 2024 bishops are discussing officiating and blessing gay marriage in the church. Decision will be made this November. Situation is tense between dark and light. Wokeism has been influencing evangelical Lutheran churches heavily. I have read Rising Ecumenism and Bishop Visiting Rome recently. We'll look at this article. I found it in some Finnish newspaper. I'm not part of the church, and prior I was a New Ager and pagan. I knew of pagan origins of Finland's church system, holiday symbols, and what came from Rome. Back then I laughed at Christian ignorance. After Jesus saved me a year ago, I have not been able to find like-minded believers because I don't want to go to church on Sunday. I knew the seventh day is Saturday from my old life. There is massive ongoing deception. After watching your eye-opening episode of the Sabbath series, which, by the way, if you haven't watched it, make sure you do that. It's a great series. I wanted to share with you a few headlines I have seen within the last month. I read an article from Yellow Media about plans to make the work week last for 6 days for all factory and processing workers. Basically, most people, if they are not nurses, etc., so far it has been standard 5. Now, if you recall the article I covered, I think it was in the last Venerable Day of the Sun episode, where we talked about Greece and how they're imposing this 6-day work week, and how it's like this dialectic and people are really upset about it, which, people are overworked and stressed as it is. So there, of course, the answer will be what the European Sunday Alliance is presenting, which is, hey, come on, we need to rest on Sunday. We need to have a dedicated day to rest as a compromise. These things are just dark to light dialectics, folks. So that's why I thought this email was interesting, because now you see it in other countries. 6 days, we got to work. So, okay, well, we need to protect at least one day of rest. What should that be? Well, that should be Sunday. This is the point. Moving on. Pretty soon after that, I saw an article in similar media talking about plans to remove Sunday extra pay entirely. So far in Finland, you get extra for working on Sunday shifts. So there you go. One little legislation at a time is how they do it. Number 3, generally in media now, no one ever spoke of Christians or faith. Everything was woke or celebrity nonsense. Leftist everything, while others were racist, etc. Polarized talk as you know it. Now, there is almost daily a new headline regarding faith, church, or how some famous person in Finland has found Christ, or of their quiet, hidden faith. It is becoming mainstream after being a butt of jokes for decades. Even recently, kids cannot be exposed to Christian stuff in school, but it is outlawed. Talking about faith banned. Now everything is turning very quickly around. Dark to light, folks. I wish I saved the links to the articles I saw, but the things you speak in your videos are very real. Thank you for making them. I feel way less alone being able to listen and be edified by it. Blessings to you. Sincerely, I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Maiju. Hopefully I got that right. So Maiju, I'm sorry that you feel alone. You're never alone, my friend. Where two or more are gathered, there he is. I know it's difficult. Certainly the more we learn, the more we do feel isolated from the world. And I think part of that's the point. Abraham was a sojourner, and in the New Testament, we are described as sojourners in a foreign world because we're not part of the world. And that's just part of the nature of the beast. And unfortunately, we live in a very divisive society. However, God uses it for the good. I've created that chat in the Fennec Fox chat in the website where you can meet other like-minded people. We'll see how things go. Maybe Substack will eventually create some sort of video thing where we can do like a video get-together of some kind at some point in the future. I don't know yet, but you never know, and those are easy ways to meet other people and ultimately have fellowship. Another thing that I say to people that are struggling with this question, because I've gotten this a lot, is, again, going back to what I said at the beginning, God has given you knowledge not to sit on your hands. If you see all of these great marvels of the devil, give glory and blessing to God for opening your eyes, and also realize that God does not just give you all of this awareness so that you can be passive and sit there and reflect and enjoy and all this stuff. Of course, that's part of it. But if you have awareness, you need to do something with it, folks. You need to do something. Doesn't mean start a YouTube channel and do, the things that I'm doing with 3-hour-long videos. It means do something with it in your own capacity, in your own circle, with your own talents. Don't be passive. God has given you supernatural wisdom and supernatural awareness to see through the delusion. So when you go and have fellowship at these churches, go with an agenda. Let's put it that way. Go to speak and to have conversations with people, to maybe build friendships with people that you can help to plant seeds and water so that God can give the growth. So anyway, some food for thought with that, because I know a lot of people have asked me about fellowship. What do you do? I'm learning all these things now. I feel totally alone and alienated from everybody. I get it. The narrow road is narrow for a reason. And ultimately, you're not alone. You're never alone. Christ is always there with you. And we have ways of getting together and having fellowship with others. But it does take more strategy. Let's put it that way. Here's another video. Oh my goodness. Let's listen to this. Because this, if I can get... Okay, there we go. Because this talks about exactly what I talked about in my Great Delusion episode on the Jews.
And motivated and influenced by faith in Jesus Christ, we encounter...
This is Nick Fuentes, by the way, in a recent episode he released titled Project 25 Disavowed Again. Trump doubles down on disavowal. He's commenting on the supposed disavowal of Trump to 2025. But we know what's really going on.
Encounter a major obstacle. There's a big problem. Standing in the middle of both of those big ideas, which is America first and Christ's dominion over the country, it's the Jewishness of the conservative movement.
Uh-oh.
It's the fact that so much of the conservative movement is controlled or influenced by Jewish people, Jewish money, Jewish pundits, and some of them are
telling you the truth. So again, there's always a little truth in what they tell you. Every hand reveals itself. The left is revealing the right, and the right is revealing the left.
Religiously Jewish. Some of them are ethnically Jewish. But what matters is that their ethnic Jewish identity, which sometimes also includes a religious conviction in Talmudic Judaism, their Jewish identity precludes them from supporting a chauvinistic version of American nationalism or a vision of America being put first because of their affinity for Israel, because of their wariness to anoint a powerful white majority or some kind of solidarity that comes from America's European heritage. And of course, they also have an obstinate refusal to recognize Jesus Christ as God's only begotten Son and as a part of the Godhead himself. So this is, in a nutshell, the problem, which really the whole show is about that. When we say America first and Christ is king, they're not wrong. It is a battle cry. It is saying that, yes, this is our version of conservatism. This is our
version.
Right wing. It's American first. It's American only. It's
into this part.
It's American in character. I would argue it isn't even necessarily strictly conservative. American is the basis of what we're about. We're American. That's how we identify. That's what characterizes it. And it is distinctly Christian, specifically Catholic. So
there you go. Distinctly Christian. Actually, it's really just Catholic, because Catholicism is not Christianity. But that's a very interesting video. Now, the reason I pulled that up was because what's the problem? What is the problem, folks? What's the biggest problem for the beast? You don't need to be a biblical scholar. You don't need to be with your finger on the news every day. You don't need to do these things. You just need simple deductive reasoning. What is the biggest problem for the beast if the Bible tells you that the world will marvel after the beast and all, rich or poor, greater, small, free or slave, will take the mark of the beast? Well, let me put it this way, that will be forced into a choice, whether you want to take it or lose societal privileges. What's the problem for the beast that the beast needs to overcome? In order to legally, of course, the devil doesn't have any legal ground against you because of Christ, but he's going to create a counterfeit system where it will seem that he's justified in killing you in the name of God. That's what he's doing. So how can the devil do that and get the world to marvel after the beast? There's a real big problem, and that problem is the Jews. Because the Jews worship on Saturday. And of course, you can worship God any day of the week, but for them, the rest day, the day of rest, is Saturday. It's the seventh day. That's a real problem for the beast, folks. That's a real problem, because as long as the Jews are around doing their thing, doesn't matter if they're Antichrist or not. As long as the Jews are doing their thing, you as a Sabbath keeper who is being loyal to God cannot be persecuted. Do you understand? That's how I know that the Jews will come to be converted, that they will accept the light of Sunday. And it's going to happen in stages. I've talked about this in my Dark to Light Zionism episode, so go watch that. They have the Messianic movement they've been working on for decades, folks, with the charismatics and getting all of these Jews to basically fuse Judaism with Christianity and charismatic principles into this mishmash of Torah-loving, keeping, type of semi-legalist, but, Hebrew roots type of thing. I mean, it's just a mishmash of ideas. The Messianics still rest on Saturday, but, again, if you understand how these things work, they happen in stages. First, you got to get the extremists out of the way. The Zionists and the jihadis, you got to get these people out of the way because they're extreme. You need the moderate people because the moderates are more susceptible to political and social influence. Then you get the third temple rebuilt and you get that whole dialectic going. You create some supernatural blue beam things going on. Who knows what they're going to do? And you start the charismatic revival in the Middle East. And that fulfills what the NAR people are expecting, that, blessed is he. You're not going to see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Matthew, 25? Where they're expecting a Jewish conversion before the return of Christ. So that fulfills that requirement. And of course, once the Jews convert, then you have insiders, Jesuits, cultural spies, people that are bribed, people that are threatened. Same old story, folks, same old modus operandi, that will start to say, well, we Jews have seen the light of Sunday. You know what? Jesus, our Savior, resurrected on Sunday. Why are we keeping to old legalist traditions? Come, my brother Jews, let's acknowledge the light of Sunday and fully embrace our Lord Jesus Christ. That's what's going to happen, folks. If you think I'm crazy, again, just watch those episodes. And not even that. Read your Bible. Go to Revelation 13. What does it say? The world will marvel after the beast. The world includes the Jews. And if it says that people will take its mark, and the beast's mark is Sunday rest, and Sunday legislation will enforce that, and the Jews will take that mark, what does that mean? That means the Jews are going to be converted, just like Theodor Herzl, who is the father of Zionism, promised the Pope when he had a meeting with him in the early 1900s. 50 years later, what'd you get? You got a state of Israel after 2 world wars, and you had this Zionist machine that is now, after 80 years, being exposed. Why? If Nick Fuentes is right, and to some degree he is, but if he's right that there's this Jewish control over the media and there's this big Jewish matrix and there's Zionists and this and that, why is Zionism being exposed? After how many decades of it being completely in control of so many different avenues? It's being exposed, folks, because the Jews need to be converted. And they will be converted. Of course, it's going to happen in stages, like I said, but they will be converted and they will come to worship on Sunday, because then, my brothers and sisters, my friends, when the Jews are converted and you have Messianic Jews who are frothing at the mouth for the Eucharist and the light of Sunday rest, and you as a Sabbath-keeping rebel are arguing that the Sabbath is on the seventh day and holding to those old pesky traditions. Really, they're not traditions, they're the Word of God. But that's what you're going to be accused of. You're going to be accused of breaking the Word of God and not aligning with this new thing. They're going to persecute you in the name of God. That's why you got to know your scriptures, folks. You got to know your scriptures. You got to know your history. You got to know everything that God said. Otherwise, the devil is going to accuse you. Again, he doesn't have any legal grounds against you in the court that really matters. As of the cross, he has no more legal standing. He was kicked out as the prosecutor. However, he will create a counterfeit reality where he can accuse you. And unless you have a proper defense, you risk caving to that accusation and taking the mark on your hand out of fear of persecution. So that was a nice little detour. Let's see. Okay, that aligns perfect. Let's go now to this little article from Kopion Hapakunta, whatever that's pronounced. Bishop Jari Jolkonen, as a guest speaker in the Vatican, acknowledgement of Finnish ecumenism. This is one of those articles that my friend Maiju was talking about. Hopefully I got that name right. Bishop Jolkonen is the only presenter from Lutheran Reformation. Other guest speakers come from Germany, the United States, Switzerland, and Italy. Lutherans and Catholics have come closer together over the course of 50 years, but now there are some deadlocks in doctrinal discussions. I wish they could open up. For my part, I want to support a new beginning. Of course, because that's your part. You're a Jesuit operative. My purpose is to renew the wish I presented to Pope Francis in January 2018 that Lutherans and Catholics would prepare a statement about the Church and the Eucharist and the office of the priest, which could at best lead to the cancellation of old doctrinal judgments and the visible unity of the churches. Now, if you know, Lutherans signed a joint declaration with Catholics in 1999 on justification, which doesn't make any sense, but either way, they did it because they've been compromised. And so now you have more and more pushes for unification. We Finns already have a good basic text. In this way, the division of the churches that arose 500 years ago could be overcome, says Bishop Jolkonen. Jolkonen, maybe, I don't know. Previously, Bishop Jolkonen was invited as a guest speaker to Rome in 2017. He was invited. If you get invited to Rome as a guest speaker, what does that mean, folks? Does it matter what religion you're part of? When the Vatican, together with the Gregorian University, organized a conference in connection with the 500th anniversary of the Lutheran Reformation. Gosh, if that's not trolling you on a expert level, I don't know what is. The Vatican organizes a convention in honor of the Reformation. Let's invite all of you Protestant brothers back to the Mother Church to show you that you're going to be integrated, whether you like it or not, because God has decreed it and these things will happen. So either way, just to kind of prove that email that I was sent from that gentleman, things are going from dark to light, folks, and it's happening in Europe, it's happening in the United States, little by little here and there. And of course, it's not just little by little because things are happening very quickly, but either way, they're happening and you need to be aware of that. Oh, I love this article. This is going to, if you remember one article from today, remember this one and go look it up too. U.S. Catholic. This is from last year. Does cryptocurrency have a future in the Catholic Church? That's probably all I should read, and that should give you the point of this, but this is a really good article. Some believe that the technology behind cryptocurrency has the potential to reshape not just the economy, but also the church. The snake has his eyes on cryptocurrency. Given its name, it seems only natural that cryptocurrency and the suite of other blockchain-based technology associated with it would have an enduring, opaque, mysterious, and frequently shady reputation that stretches all the way back to its creation. In 2007, Satoshi Nakamoto, a pseudonym for a software engineer or perhaps a group of engineers, who to this day remains unidentified because they're probably CIA, Jesuit, whatever secret society people that did this, folks. This was a practice run to eventually bring the world into a digital economy so that the beast could enforce worship. Anyway, they began to work on Bitcoin, a digital currency built on a previously theorized but never before implemented decentralized database called the blockchain. In the decade and a half since, cryptocurrencies have exploded in popularity. I wonder why. In its early days, many transactions using Bitcoin or the numerous other cryptocurrencies it spawned were centered around illicit, illegal, or otherwise questionable goods and activities, ranging from drugs to prostitution to weapons. Dark. Even as recent as 2018, a study conducted by the Review of Financial Studies found that as much as 46% of all Bitcoin transactions were associated with illegal activity. That's right. So you see, they created it so they could foster their illegal activities while at the same time creating a precedent to introduce a nationalized version of cryptocurrency, which I've talked about, and we'll talk about it a little bit here today as well, as a solution. So they have multiple purposes for these things, folks. They're always working the double agenda, the spirit of Antichrist. But today, cryptocurrencies have also acquired a different but similarly shady connotation, becoming heavily associated with get-rich-quick speculation, massive boom and bust cycles, and outright fraud and Ponzi schemes. Also true. I can attest to that because I've lost a lot of money in crypto. I'm sure maybe a few of you out there have as well. It's just one giant Ponzi scheme. There's no real value, folks. You're just putting your money in. As long as you take your money out before everybody else, you've made a profit. Despite this, there are many who still see cryptocurrency and other blockchain technologies as vital innovations poised to reinvent and revitalize the structure of economies, societies, and for some, even the church. What does the Bible have to say about that? Matthew Pinto, the founder and former owner of the Ascension Press, is one such person. In November 2022, he assembled the first Catholic crypto conference. If this doesn't tell you we are at the end of the end, I don't know what will, folks. I really don't. Bringing together technologists, enthusiasts, and other interested Catholics for a dialogue on the ways the church might make use of and perhaps even be changed by this nascent technology. Quote, there's a lot of people who believe that this technology has the ability to touch all aspects of life. That this could be really important, Pinto says of his reasons for organizing the conference. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but we want the church there. Brantley Milligan, one of the keynote speakers at the Catholic Crypto Conference and a director of the Ethereum name service, which uses blockchain technology to secure users' personal information for use across the internet, agrees that it is essential for Catholics to get involved in the crypto space. If Catholics want the new blockchain world to reflect Catholic values, what is a prime Catholic value, folks? If you said Sunday, then you're right. And the Eucharist and all of these other things that will be part of the new thing. But of course, Sunday rest will be the thing. Now is the time to be involved, according to this man. Because people are setting up the technology now. We have to get involved if we want to reflect Catholic values. Do you understand? Things are becoming moral, folks. And that way things tend to go. The way things tend to go is once you set up a technology or protocol, it gets network effects. And then it gets harder to change over time. So we better get involved ASAP if we want to reflect Catholic values in the digital currency world. Very important, folks. Climate change has gone from dark to light. Now it's a moral issue. AI. The Pope was at the G7 conference. Never, ever has a Pope gone to a G7 conference and people are bowing down to the beast and listening to him talk about AI having to be a moral situation. It's no longer secular. We need a moral authority to guide us into developing AI. Cryptocurrency, look at all this dark activity that's happening. We need a moral quality to this so that it doesn't get used for evil things. Do you understand? Everything is being subsumed and absorbed by the snake under the guise of righteousness. We need morality. Whose morality is it going to be, though? That's the question. Who is the moral authority going to dictate how AI is used? It's not God. It's going to be the Pope. What does the Pope care about? Receiving worship because he's the man of sin. That's what the Pope cares about. So, very important article. Keep it to mind because there's probably going to be more such articles in the future. Here's another one. Project 2025 has primed Bitcoin for a 16 trillion price showdown with gold. This is from July 2024, very recent. Project 2025. Oh, so many ads. How do you get rid of you? Get out of here. How do I get rid of this? More. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I obviously can't get rid of it. There you go. Fine. No, get away. Okay. Oh, I see. It pulls up. Anyway. Project 2025, a radical policy plan created by the right-wing Heritage Foundation think tank, has spread like wildfire in Washington, D.C., fanned by the ailing Biden administration. Dark to light. Google Project 2025, Biden's official X account posted after former President Republican 2024 hopeful Donald Trump claimed to know nothing about Project 2025. Yeah, right. And he also claimed that he has no idea who's behind it. Also, yeah, right. The Project 2025 plan, detailed in a mammoth 920-page document, which I've analyzed, a very important part of which is the Sabbath laws, that recommends huge overhauls of every government department, would abolish the Federal Reserve and create a system of so-called free banking or a commodity-backed replacement for the US dollar, with some increasingly confident Bitcoin would be more attractive than gold. And if you recall, I think that's all I had for it. Thank goodness, this is stupid. Look at this little X. You can barely click on it. My gosh. If you recall, Trump's stance on Bitcoin has changed suddenly. He was all against it. Now suddenly we need to nationalize Bitcoin. Where do you think this is going, folks? Bitcoin and whether it's Bitcoin or not, who knows? But the Bible tells you you will not be able to buy or sell unless you participate spiritually in this system. Whether you believe in that spirituality or whether you participate, just out of actions because you don't want the consequences of not participating, doesn't matter. The consequences are going to be enforced with no buy, no sell. That means you require a digital currency. Otherwise, the beast can't enforce such an edict. Of course, we have shadows of it in history, but never at a time in history have we come so close to being to the point where you have a centralized power that can literally just turn you off from society. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Because all these people are in league with the devil. Here's another dark to light from July. Excommunicated Archbishop issues dire warning to the world. Of course, followed some of this stuff with Vigano. I mean, look at it. It's just the picture alone. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, folks. Look at this guy. I mean, you have a high-ranking cardinal who had, I forget his role. He was somewhere very prestigious in the Vatican, but you're telling me you got this like really prestigious Vatican official, ex-Vatican official, and he's like telling you the truth about the Vatican. Like, come on, folks. Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano, who was recently excommunicated by the Vatican for exposing its globalist ties, issued a dire warning last week that the church is under attack by globalist forces. No, the church is the one who created the globalist forces to make itself look good when it comes in to rescue you from the globalist forces. The Fourth Revolution, theorized by Klaus Schwab and the family of international finance, find in Pope Francis Bergoglio not a neutral spectator, which would itself already be an unheard of thing, but actually a zealous cooperator who abuses his own moral authority in order to support ab extra, outside the church, the project of the dissolution of traditional society, Vigano said in a video statement. He's very much against the Pope, at least on the surface. It seems to me that this conspiracy, this is the part that really highlights everything. It seems to me that in this conspiracy, the role of the Jesuit has been decisive. It is no coincidence that for the first time in history, a religious of the Society of Jesus is seated on the throne of Peter. He added, gosh, isn't that revealing the method if I've ever seen it for myself? He's telling you all about the Jesuits. He's pointing you to something that maybe you didn't know about. The Jesuits are maybe not who you think they are. And for the first time in history, there's a Jesuit in the seat of Peter. What does that mean? Vigano has been openly critical of Pope Francis, including his handling of sexual abuse allegations. Support for the COVID-19 vaccines, the World Economic Forum's Great Reset, and the promotion of an inclusive, immigrationist, eco-sustainable, and gay-friendly church. The former papal ambassador to the U.S. also called into question Francis' legitimacy as pontiff. Gosh, this is some heavy words. I wonder if Vigano is going to be the next pope. For his criticisms, Vigano has been excommunicated for schism, which is defined as the withdrawal of submission to the supreme pontiff, or from communion with the members of the church subject to him. His public statements manifesting his refusal to recognize and submit to the supreme pontiff, his rejection of the communion with the members of the church subjected to him, and the legitimacy and magisterial authority of the Second Vatican Council are well known, says the Vatican in a statement issued after the ruling of the Dicastery for the Doctrine of Faith. So this whole thing is very interesting to me because, again, if you understand right now, yes, it's true. The Pope is a Jesuit, and Jesuits are the destroyers. They're liberal, although you have right-wing Jesuits too, so ultimately they're always playing an agenda. And it's a curious thing that the Jesuit has become a pope, and he's doing all of these very radically liberal leftist things. It's very obvious. Why? Why is he doing these things? And of course, if you've learned to think in dualistic thinking like these people do, you understand that that's by design so that everything can swing rapidly and sharply to the right. I've used this example before. If you've ever played racquetball, super ADD sport, it's a little tiny rubber ball that bounces like crazy. And the harder you hit that ball, the more it just bounces around the wall. This is the point, folks. The harder you push to the left, the more there's justification to go even harder to the right. If you have a really extreme outcome on this side, you need to go very extreme that way in order to come back and make this seem like the reasonable option. Do you understand? That's the way these things work. The Catholic Church coming back to power and being resurrected, in a sense, spiritually, and the world marveling after the system is an extreme outcome of totalitarian control. And in order for that to seem beautiful and enchanting and rational and good, you need to do some very extreme dark things, very extreme liberal things. You need to undo traditional values. You need to do all of this stuff so that when the voice of reason, perhaps Vigano, maybe he's going to be the next pope, which would be very interesting. Who knows? There's definitely some part that he's playing. And that part, at the minimum, is designed to expose the dark so that the Catholics have a revival, which you'll see. There's a video at the end of this talk that it gave me shivers just to look at it. It's a profound video, but you'll see. There's being primed now a Catholic revival, a swing to the right. And that revival is going to be very ecumenical. It's going to unite the world in a counterfeit spirit. At the very least, he's playing his part to do that. At the most, he's possibly the next pope. Who knows? And he'll be super hardcore and conservative because the last pope will be conservative. And interestingly enough, they've already planned this out. If you look in, I think it's St. Peter's Basilica. I forget which one, but they have these little circles, these little head, what do you call it? Like head pieces or whatever, where there's, all the popes that have ever happened. And interestingly enough, there's only space for one more after Pope Francis. So they've planned this out. There's that prophecy of the popes or whatever the Catholics had, like with, I forget who said that, but anyway, they supposedly predicted all the popes in order, and I don't know if that's true or not, but either way, they definitely plan things out on enormous timescales. They plan everything out because they're dealing with the devil, and they're dealing with supernatural forces, and they do occult seances and things, and they plan things out. So the next pope will be conservative. He's going to be perfect timing with the conservative flip around the world, with the powerhouse of America going full-on religious nationalist and conservative. And everything is going to be just perfect timing to wrap it up, and the world will marvel after the beast. So we'll see what happens with that. But either way, that's an interesting article. This next one is from 330 TV or some, what is this? WBBJ TV News. This is Jackson residents gather as Tennessee governor signs bill calling for 30 days of prayer. Now, it doesn't say, it should say prayer and fasting, because you'll see that's what it actually is. There they are, smiling, doing the Lord's work in their mind. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee has signed a bill calling for 30 days of prayer and fasting for the month of July. Why is the government signing a bill telling you to pray and fast? That is unheard of. Well, it's not unheard of in history, but at least in the United States, that's a fascinating development, at least in recent United States history. This movement is an initiative to open the eyes of the Americans and lead the way towards a brighter future for the entire nation. That's right. A bright future of love and light. What does the Bible tell you about the future? Does it tell you it gets brighter before the return of Christ? Yeah, it tells you it gets brighter by the light of Satan, the false light. It doesn't tell you it gets better. It tells you it gets more and more delusional. One of our legislators, Monty Fritz from East Tennessee, God planned it on his heart to write a resolution. So God is now responsible for this bill telling you to pray and fast. See how this works? That resolution is HJR 803. That is joint House resolution, which means basically that it was signed off on all parties and then signed by our governor. Everybody's in on it, folks, left and right. Said so-and-so, yada, yada. This is something Legislator Fritz is orchestrating throughout all 95 counties. Pastor Martin expresses this has nothing to do with politics, but everything to do with the relationship with Jesus Christ. Do you need to pray and fast? Well, you need to pray, obviously, but we're not saved by praying. But you don't need to fast. And in fact, Paul warns you that there will come a time when people will forbid you to eat and do all of these traditions of men, thinking that that's going to get you closer to God. Fasting, it can be a useful tool for that, but you're not mandated to fast, folks. You don't need to fast. And fasting isn't always the best thing to do, especially if you're under stress and you have a cortisol imbalance. Fasting is not a good idea unless you're doing it just temporarily and you want to, have a very special purpose out of that fast. But either way, fasting is not necessary. This wasn't about the one side versus the other. They all came together and realized if we don't do something and allow God to do to do it, we're lost, said Pastor Martin. Does this sound like an ecumenical pastor? Yes, it does. Mayor A.J. Massey, Representative Chris Todd, and several other county commissioners, city council members, law enforcement, school board members, educators, business owners, and residents come together to show their support for this Day of Prayer initiative. Here we are. Everybody's united. It doesn't matter left or right, up or down, Christian, Jew, Muslim. Come on over and let's all pray and fast together, because this is a work of God. They realized that what was happening and everything that we're doing in our country is not changing anything. And they realized that the one element that's missing is the presence of God in our relationships, in our meetings, and across America. Now, in some degree, this is true. Obviously, what is missing from the human life is a communion with God. Absolutely. But how do you get that communion? It's through repentance, genuine repentance and faith in the payment of Christ with his death on your behalf. That is how you get closer to God, because he gives you his Holy Spirit, and the Spirit guides you to all truth. You do not get closer to God by uttering multiple prayers, by doing fasting, by doing religious works. This is religious nationalism, folks. It's the delusion. Pastor Martin mentions the impressive turnout that they didn't expect. He tells us it holds a great deal of significance for the entire region. Tennessee recognizes the period of July 1st to July 31st as a time of prayer and fasting in the state. Gosh, that's just crazy. And this is the first one. They're doing these things as little pings. Oh, did it work here? Okay, what challenges do we have? Okay, how do we need to change the culture? The next one's going to be better and better and better. And pretty soon you're going to have the whole country legislating to you what you should do morally. Do you understand how much of a problem this is? How it confirms the trajectory of history? That there will be an authority that is not God, that is telling you what to do morally. It's coming, folks. It's coming quick. You better get ready for it and be edified with the truth. This is InfoWars. It's an opinions article, but it tells you everything about InfoWars, in my opinion. Separation of church and state is a sin. Here's why. By Matthew Mc. This headline might seem shocking to some people. This is from LifeSite News, I guess they're quoting, but either way, it's being published on InfoWars, so there's that. Many of us have grown up under political systems which enshrine separation of church and state in constitutional law or otherwise regarded as a positive for society. However, this headline reflects the teaching of the Catholic Church, ding, 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 as transmitted to us by the Roman pontiffs. Ding, ding, ding. There's your moral authority, folks. There's the moral authority that's going to tell you what to do, left or right, up or down. This teaching has been explained with particular clarity and detail by Pope Leo XIII. It is encyclical letter Immortale Dei on the Christian constitution of the states and in Libertas on human liberty. Rediscovering this doctrine will help us to understand many of the problems faced by the modern West. We know that something has gone badly wrong in our society: abortion, redefinition of marriage, transgenderism, spiraling crime, rising suicide rates, endless wars, and many other symptoms of a civilization in rapid collapse. Now, really quick point there. Who created that? Who created communism? Who created the communistic atheistic system? Who sponsored the French Revolution? Who fomented all of these wars? It's the mother of all abominations of the earth, folks. And if you understand that these ugly things are a result of the mother of abominations to make herself look good when she comes and rescues you as the solution. Do you understand? While on one side you have all of these wars and revolutions and collapse of atheistic society and so on the other hand, you have the shining moral authority of the Pope. And they give you these brilliant encyclicals and how we need to have this and that. And it seems so reasonable in light of all of this destruction. That's the point, folks. And that's how it works. It goes in tandem. The dark will be used by the light. Moving on. This, according to the popes, is what inevitably happens to a society which tries to live without God, i.e. Catholicism, and without the divine revelation which has been entrusted to his church, i.e. without the authority of the Pope. The assertion made in the headline that separation of church and state is a sin is derived from the teaching of Pope Leo XIII. So the beast, who the Bible warns you will be worshipped at the end of time through a religious nationalist system, a union of religion and politics. The beast is telling you that separating church and state is a sin. Boy, that certainly makes sense. Anyway, the Beast 13 wrote, "It is a public crime to act as though there were no God." Now, again, reading context, I'm sorry to stop again, but whenever you hear the Pope or these militant Catholics saying the word God, or saying things like, it's a public crime to act as though there were no God, they don't mean God. They mean it's a public crime to act as though there was no Catholicism. You have to understand and read in context. So too is it a sin for the state not to have care for religion as something beyond its scope, or as of no practical benefit, or out of many forms of religion to adopt that one which chimes in with the fancy. For we are bound absolutely to worship God in that way which he has shown to be his will. What does that mean? How has God shown to be, how has God's will been revealed that he wants to be worshipped, according to the Pope? Well, according to the Pope, it's Catholicism and paying your homage to the authority of the man of sin. But of course, that's not true. The Bible warns you about that. He continues, "All who rule, therefore, would hold in honor the holy name of God, i.e. the Pope. And one of their chief duties must be to favor religion, to protect it, to shield it under the credit and sanction of the laws, and neither to organize nor enact any measure that may compromise its safety. This is the bounden duty of the rulers to the people over whom they rule." They're bound by the authority of God to honor the Pope. When the Bible tells you that he conquers without any army of his own, this is what it's talking about, folks. By fornications and seductions and philosophy and just influence. It's really, truly profound. Really shows you that the Bible's true when it says that Satan gave his power, which of course that comes with great deception, to the beast, and he gave his throne to the beast. Many people today, including some who sincerely wish to be Catholic, reject this doctrine. They insist that while as individuals and families they are bound to follow God's law and practice the true religion, they state must be in neutral matters of religion. Pope Leo XIII rejects this position. There are others, somewhat more moderate, though not more consistent, who affirm that the morality of individuals is to be guided by the divine law, but not by the morality of the state. For that in public affairs the commands of God may be passed over and may be entirely disregarded in the framing of laws. Hence follows the fatal theory of the need of separation between church and state. But the absurdity of such a position is manifest. Again, this is the beast talking to you. The doctrine that Leo XIII regarded as manifestly absurd is something which many people today regard as manifestly good. The proper distinction between church and state. There is a proper and necessary distinction of church and state. The Almighty, teaches Pope Leo XIII, has given the charge of the human race to two powers, the ecclesiastical and the civil. The one being set over divine and the other over human things. And who's on top of that situation? It's the Pope. The civil authorities use natural means to achieve the end of the natural happiness for their subjects. The ecclesiastical authorities use supernatural means to achieve the end of supernatural happiness for mankind. They do use supernatural means because the Pope is probably in direct communion with Satan, and they use all sorts of marvels and false signs and wonders to achieve a counterfeit happiness of the people in delusion. The Pope explains further, quote, "Each in its kind is supreme. Each has fixed limits within which it is contained, limits which are defined by the nature and special object of the provenance of each. So that there is, we may say, an orbit traced out within which the action of each is brought into play by its own native right." Pretty language for, we each have our own spheres of influence, but, the order is the Pope is on top of the state. Church and state both have their origin in God and ought to cooperate harmoniously with each other as they pursue their own proper work for the benefit of the subjects to them. What does it mean to cooperate harmoniously? If we both have our authority from God, and the Pope is saying, look, we should cooperate harmoniously. Well, okay, Pope, since you're the religious aspect, then maybe you should be the one telling us what to do morally. Such a subtle, the snake is more clever than any being God has ever created, folks. And while there are two distinct societies, each possessing different ends, different means, and different authorities, they are united in their members. All the members of the church are also the members of the state. And it is this joint membership that leads to a necessary unity between church and state. The Pope teaches there must accordingly exist between these two powers a certain orderly connection. There it is, which may be compared to the union of the soul and the body in man. The nature and the scope of that connection can be determined only as we have laid it down, we with a capital We, which of course is a counterfeit of the Trinity, the plurality of God, by having regard to the nature of each power and by taking account of the relative excellence and nobleness of their purpose. One of the two has for its proximate and chief object the well-being of this mortal life, the other the everlasting joys of heaven. Whatever therefore in things human is of a sacred character, whatever belongs either of its own nature or by reason of the end to which it is referred, to the salvation of souls or to the worship of God, is subject to the power and judgment of the church. Whatever is to be ranged under the civil and political order is rightly subject to the civil authority. But who is influencing who, folks? This is what you don't get from these quotes that are so subtle. And by peace he will destroy many. And, flick his tongue in your ear and tickle you to death. By peace he will destroy you, saying cooperation and harmonious balance and all this stuff. But who is influencing who? The state isn't influencing the church. It's the church that's influencing the state. So who's actually controlling the state? It's the church as well. That's the point. Jesus Christ has himself given command that what is Caesar's is to be rendered to Caesar, and what belongs to God is rendered to God. You see, the devil knows his scripture, folks. And if you don't know how to respond to that statement, it seems utterly, utterly convincing and clever. Yes, Jesus did say, render to Caesar what is Caesar and render to God's what is God's. But what does that mean? That means give yourself to God, not give yourself to the Catholic Church and to the authority of the Pope. But of course, the Pope will use and twist God's words to justify himself. Church and state are distinct as societies, but may be united in their members. The following sections explore the nature of this. So this is actually quite a long article. I'm not going to read it all, but I wanted to highlight to you the fact, first off, what does the B say about the separation of church and state? What is their ultimate goal? And you've seen it. Of course, that should be clear even just from looking at history, just generally. And the fact that this is on InfoWars. What is it doing on InfoWars? What is InfoWars doing highlighting a militant Catholic apologist on their site? Tells you everything, folks. It's all one big club. And of course, as InfoWars becomes more and more integrated, like you saw, for example, what's her name? Candace Owens recently interviewed, but she interviewed Alex Jones. That's a big interview about the deep state. And now this is becoming mainstream. Candace Owens, who's a militant Catholic, interviewing Alex Jones, showing him favor. Alex Jones' website showing militant Catholics favor by giving them a platform to speak their deceptions. So put it together, one and one. Here's another one, dark to light. Breaking: ABC News signs Tucker Carlson to replace Jimmy Kimmel with a $400 million late night show deal. Isn't that something? In a shocking twist. Is it really that shocking? In the television industry, ABC has announced a landmark $400 million deal with conservative commentator Tucker Carlson to host a new late-night show replacing the long-running Jimmy Kimmel Live. The decision to bring Carlson on board is seen as a bold move by the network, aiming to shake up the late-night landscape and attract a new audience demographic. Now, ABC, who has been totally woke and liberal in the last 4 years, suddenly flips. As a result of all of these things changing to the right, suddenly ABC is flipping. This is why I said they're creating the Great Reset. This is part of the Great Reset, folks. The Great Reset is happening. It's not happening in the way you've been told. It's happening in a different way. The Great Reset is, okay, we're done with the liberal guys. Let's bring in the conservative. Now we're resetting everything. The news is going to shift to the right because they had an echo chamber that was serving them for the liberal agenda. That is being destroyed and integrated. So now they're going to create the echo chamber for the right side. That seems reasonable and, has good values. So that the echo chamber is ready for when the mark of the beast starts becoming propagandized and anti-Sabbath propaganda starts coming around. And after the Jews convert, you're going to need a media to cover this false prophecy and to make it seem real legitimate. Do you understand? Tucker is just part of the club. And of course, if you've looked into him, like if you Google Tucker Carlson Kabbalah bracelet, there he is with his little Kabbalah bracelet. How do I know it's a Kabbalah bracelet? Because you can look up Madonna, who is totally into the Kabbalah. You can look up all these other people who are practicing this thing, and they have a red little bracelet. Like, there's pictures here. I wonder if this will pull up. You see, like, there's so many. All these people. Britney Spears. What's his name? I forget. From that 70s show. There's Madonna. All these supermodels. Look at them. They're everywhere. You can look this up. Why do you think it's just some random, like, red bracelet club they're in? No, these people are in a religion, folks. They are in a religion behind their religion that's on the surface. And they pay homage to the devil, not to Jesus, not to the gospel. They may do it that in public and have, Tucker Carlson talks about his Christian faith, but why does he have a Kabbalah bracelet? He's part of the new thing, folks. You don't get to that level of influence interviewing Putin and getting $400 million contract. Do you realize how much money that is? By the beast system, really. I mean, by the woke media who was destroying and very anti-gospel. Now they're going to invest $400 million in some opposite perspective. If he wasn't bought and paid for, and if he didn't do what his puppet masters told him, I can guarantee you there is no way he would get that amount of money to be platformed and to be speaking to so many millions of people. No way. No way. You have to use the same standard of judgment, folks. If you remember that clip, I didn't pull this up, but if you remember that clip that somebody put together a long time ago, it's a famous clip where, they have like the newscasters from 50 different states or whatever, and they're all reading the same prompt. It's a threat to our democracy. You know what I'm talking about. You've probably seen it. It's a very viral clip, but either way, that clip proves what? It proves that the media is controlled. Okay, that's pretty obvious. You can look even in foreign media, it's all controlled. If that's the case, you want me to believe that Tucker Carlson is this lone wolf and he's just speaking the truth. He's just a good old Christian boy. He's speaking the truth. Look at him. He got fired. Didn't work out because he was standing for the truth. Well, here he is back in the, mainstream media with a $400 million contract so that he can be just in time to flip things to the right and create the alternative echo chamber. Do you understand? Use the same standard of judgment. If you know that the media is controlled, if you know, like, for example, Operation, what's it called? Mockingbird by the CIA, and how they said that operation will be complete when the average American citizen, everything they believe is a lie. So do the math. If the CIA has gotten involved in putting reporters out in the media, if all these reporters are married to CIA agents, and you can look this up, if you've seen evidence that they just read from the same script and it's designed to shape you like an echo chamber, what makes you think that Tucker Carlson is an exception? On what basis? What basis other than, I just think he's a really nice guy and he talks about Christianity. So what? The future is a counterfeit Christian reality. Of course he's going to talk about Christianity. Do you get it? He's part of the thing, folks. So you need to wake up from that if you're still believing that Tucker Carlson is a good guy or he's out to help you out. He's not. He's bought and paid for, like all these people are. Here's one from Donald Trump on his Truth Social. Had to get a screenshot because I'm banned from Truth Social for sharing. I didn't even do anything. I just shared, I think in a couple groups, and it's like, that's it. You're banned from spamming. I'm like, don't people do that? You have multiple groups and you share articles and things. Anyway, I don't care. Looking forward to welcoming Bibi Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida tomorrow. During my first term, we had peace and stability in the region, even signing the historic Abraham Accords, and we will have it again. Just as I have said in discussions with President Zelensky and other world leaders in recent weeks, my peace through strength agenda will demonstrate to the world that these horrible and deadly wars and violent conflicts must end. Millions are dying, and Kamala Harris is in no way capable of stopping it. Gosh, folks, we should vote for Trump. He's really coming to bring peace. What does the Bible say? The Bible says, first off, by peace you'll destroy many. Now, the he there isn't Donald Trump. I'm not saying that, because he is the little horn, which is the papal institution, but Donald Trump is a puppet of the papal institution. And him working peace is part of the papal institution's plan to bring peace to the Middle East so that there's a charismatic revival and the conversion of the Jews, so that you as a Sabbath keeper have no more excuse for keeping Saturday. But that's another can of worms. I've talked about that before. The point is that this is playing right into what the dispensationalists believe. Look, he's the Antichrist. He's gonna do a 3-year peace deal, and then it's gonna break. All hell is gonna break loose, and so on. All these people believe Trump is the Antichrist, and it's only cementing their delusion. So that when they do start building the temple, oh my goodness, boy, is that going to cement people into utter delusion that Bible prophecy is being fulfilled. It is being fulfilled. We're living through the end of Revelation, folks, which is a profound thought. I still can't get over that. As much as I report these things to you, I still can't get over the fact that we're living at the end of the end. I really can't. And I don't think I ever will. I don't think you ever will either, because this is just such a profound reality. Nevertheless, these people are going to be so deceived that they're going to fall for the delusion when the revival comes, or if there's a supernatural appearance of Jesus, there's a false battle of Armageddon. All these things are being staged to bring the world into believing that Bible prophecy has been fulfilled and therefore accepting the new system. That's what it's all about. But of course, the Bible tells you, by peace he'll destroy many. Again, that's not Trump. It's the Antichrist power, which is the Pope, the man of sin, the man of lawlessness, the little horn. And of course, Trump is a puppet of the little horn. But it also says, what else does it say? When they say peace and safety, sudden destruction will come upon them. So does the Bible tell you that the best is yet to come? Of course, the best is yet to come if you consider that the return of Christ. Yeah, absolutely. But let's say before that, does the Bible say things are getting better? That they're getting more peaceful, that they're going to get more prosperous, they're just going to get easier? Does it say that? No. Every false prophet in the Bible always, without a doubt, told people that things are getting better when actually God was warning them that things are going to get worse. So I'm telling you things are going to get worse. I'm not considering myself a prophet. I'm just telling you things are going to get worse. That's what the Bible says. Do not buy into this idea of peace and safety and abundance and all these things that will seem good, because they are illusions designed to get you comfortable, just like you boil a frog slowly and slowly. If you were boiled anything like soup or cooked anything, you know that for a period of time, the water feels actually kind of good, right? Like if you were in a bathtub and it was heating up to boiling temperatures, for a period of time, it would actually feel really good. Do you understand? If you went into a cold bathtub and you were super cold, my gosh, but it's warming up. Boy, once it got warm, it certainly feels way better than that cold water, that's for sure. And that's how the devil gets you. That transition phase between getting cooked alive and boiled, where it feels really comfy and peace has arrived and there's so much, we have prosperity finally, no more deep state. Thank you, Trump. That's what it's going to be about. That period of time won't last too long because it's heating up fast, but you will feel comfortable. And that's when you need to realize that the end is very near. Anyway, moving on. Boy, we've only gotten through the first set here almost. French Bible Society to give away 200,000 copies of New Testament at Paris Olympics. This is from July 22nd. Of course, they're doing the Paris Olympics with all of their Freemason, Illuminati, Jacobin hat, which we're going to look at in just a second. But let's see. The French Bible Society has created a special edition of the New Testament to be distributed during the upcoming Olympics. With just days to go until the Paris Olympic Games get underway, the French Bible Society is making its own preparations to hand out 140,000 copies of the New Testament in French and another 60,000 copies in English. That's interesting. I've never seen that at an Olympics. Maybe they're been doing these things, but I've never seen that before. Especially in Paris, which is the city of the French Revolution where atheism was started. Very interesting. The organization hopes that free copies of the New Testament will leave a lasting legacy that extends far beyond the athletic arenas. I wonder what that legacy is that they intend to leave. The edition features testimonies from Christian athletes, including French handball champion Joel Abati and Australian high jumper Nicola Olishlagers. Now, really quick, just like Trump had his own edition of the Bible with the Constitution, is that what we should be doing when we publish Bibles, is to include other people's opinions of Christ? Now, I'm not saying some of these people might be genuine testimonies, but you don't do that, folks, because you don't know if they had a genuine reaction or not. You can read the testimony, sure, and some testimonies are more convincing than others. But the point is, you don't include that into the Bible, just like you don't include the songs of the lyrics of a song or the Constitution or whatever else. You don't do that. The Bible is the Bible. It's the Word of God. It's not the Word of God plus the Word of man. Okay, we can trust that the testimonies of Peter and Paul and John and James and Jude, that they are enough and that they're inspired by the Holy Spirit. I don't need the testimonies of this athlete or that athlete. Why are they doing that? To make it ecumenical and to make it seem, culturally acceptable. What is their agenda? The French Bible Society is collaborating with various Christian sporting ministries in delivering the New Testaments. It said the collaboration stands as a beacon of the power of collaboration and the shared values that bring people together, transcending the boundaries of sport and spirituality. Now, the snake is a little more clear, even though he's still speaking in poetic language as usual. Now we see a little more clear avenue with this. This is ecumenical in design. And of course, Paris, being the home of the French Revolution and secular, it's time to go dark to light, folks. The Olympics, perfect time. Of course, while they're doing that, they're also parading those Jacobin hats, which we'll read about in just a second. This is, I believe, a video. Sorry, we're having trouble playing this video. All right, let's see. Refresh. There we go. Paris Olympics mascots are illuminated. Confirmed. Let's see these little mascots. If you know what these are, these little Jacobin hats.
The 2024 Paris Olympics mascots are illuminated. The 2024 Paris Olympics mascots are illuminate confirmed. Here's why. The new mascots, called Fierges, are actually caps that go back to the cult of Mithras in Rome. This was a sun-worshipping mystery cult derived from the Persian Zoroastrians. They had initiation degrees, secret handshakes, and vows of silence, so basically the archetype for secret societies and the Illuminati. Mithras was depicted wearing the red Frisian cap and slaying a bull. If you dig deep into this topic, there's a claim that Mithras is actually devil worship when he is worshipped at night. I also covered 3 podcasts in 2020 detailing the occult symbolism of Raised by Wolves, which is based on the same Mithraic mysteries, symbolism of destroying our world in order to rebuild it. Now, officially, the caps represent liberty and freedom, symbolizing the French Revolution, but even that's Illuminati confirmed because there's theories that the Bavarian Illuminati orchestrated that event.
Oh, they're not theories. They're facts, folks. Watch my French Revolution episode.
The truth is that symbols hold energy and speak to us on a subconscious level. When you look at the hidden occult symbolism of the Fierges cap, you end up finding direct links to sun worship and alchemy through Hermeticism, which is based on contact with an alien god named Hermes or Thoth. You could also argue that the Smurfs are part of the conspiracy with their little socialism and Gnostic tales about Gargamel the priest being evil, or his cat Azrael, which is one of the fallen angels from the book of Enoch, which ties us into the bigger picture here, contact with the gods or the aliens, because that's what the occult magicians like Kenneth Grant want. Mass energy focus on the alien gods so that we can draw them into our reality. So what better usage of energy focus than the Olympics, which draws the largest audience possible to focus on these occult symbols. The 2024...
Oh, of course, I've broken these down quite a bit, and if you know the history of the French Revolution and what actually happened, there's nothing new under the sun, folks. When the Bible says the devil is the god of this world, it says that very intentionally because the devil is the god of this world. He's worshipped through these various secret societies and multiple names and so on. This is, I hope it's not going to cover, oh, there we go. With its history, oh, it blocked again. Okay, well, boy, that was really annoying. I had to readjust this because their ads are just crazy on this site. My goodness. Anyway, now you can see the text. Anyway, this is an article titled Ancient Egypt to Little Red Riding Hood, the Red Cap of Hermetics. You can see them here. This is old mosaic. There's nothing new under the sun, folks. Old as time. With its history beginning once upon a time in ancient Egypt among gods and witnessing the birth of Hermeticism to becoming a symbol of anarchists and hopping between American and French revolutions, a simple red cap spins a fascinating tale throughout history. Yes, it does. In the aftermath of the French Revolution, Louis XVI, the last king of France, was depicted in many paintings with a bonnet rouge, a red cap, on his head. However, what is the story of this red cap with its long apex bent over the front? And why is it placed at the head of the French, my goodness, this site is crazy, constitutional monarch before he was executed? Why was it placed on his head? Sacred immortal fire. The prophet Idris, the second prophet mentioned in the Quran, who was a sultan and a prophet in Egypt, not only taught people earthly sciences, but also esoteric sciences. Later, he was raised to the fourth heaven, or the realm of the sun. In time, people began to worship the sun in order to commemorate this prophet, who had enlightened them with his wisdom and prosperity. The sciences he had left as a legacy were defaced and came to known as Hermeticism. Now, if you know about Hermes Trismegistus and the mythology surrounding this, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Satan himself and, basically taking on some form and advising people with all these different things. But either way, whatever Hermes was, or if he's just a myth, these things are the bedrock of the occult. And of course, they're seen everywhere. In Lower Egypt, a city that the Greeks called Heliopolis, city of the sun, was established. I think Heliopolis is mentioned in the Bible, and it's judged. But anyway, people here worshipped the sun god, whom they named Ra. They had a goddess named Wadjet, also known as the Eye of Ra. The lion-headed Wadjet wore a red cap with a long back that represented the sun. This cap, a sign of Lower Egypt, was also worn by pharaohs who saw themselves as the sons of the sun. This sun cult of Egypt in time spread to Iran and Anatolia. The red cap, which carries the colors of the esoteric sun or fire that illuminates the soul, became the symbol of the Hermetics. In Iran, it is rumored that Perseus, who killed Medusa, was the first to wear this headdress. Perseus was the one who brought the sciences of esotericism and magic to Iran. He also established the faith based on Mithras, the god of light, before Zoroastrianism. The Mithras faith spread to Asia Minor thanks to the Magi, Zoroastrian priests, who were the clergy of this belief. Attis, who was the lover of the Phrygian goddess, Great Mother Cybele, who sat on the lion throne in Anatolia and was the equivalent of Horus, in Egypt, was again dressed in this red cap. Here's that picture of King Louis XVI with the red cap in the French Revolution. Phrygian cap. During the Roman period, the Romans, who had been influenced by the Iranian Zoroastrian Mithras beliefs, founded a secret esoteric sect with the same name. Only men were accepted into Mithraism. The order became especially popular with the members of the military and slaves. Thanks to them, it spread all over the empire. Temples called Mithraea were built in the name of Mithras or Sol Invictus, who, by the way, Constantine, who started the Day of the Sun, basically had a coin with Sol Invictus on it and himself on there as well. I've talked about these in the Sabbath series, so go check it out. But anyway, Sol Invictus means unconquered sun. The Venerable Day of the sun deity of the sect. Mithras was always depicted with a red cap in these temples, including the latest one discovered in Zerzevan Castle in southeastern Turkey's Diyarbakir. The red cap was seen in the West as an omen of the Jews. It was also known as the Trojan or Phrygian cap, as it crossed to the west via Anatolia. The center of Hermeticism in the West became Italy, especially Venice. And really, Rome took on all of the occult. After the Library of Alexandria died, basically all of the occult moved to Rome. That's why the Venetian Doge's hat was designed as a Phrygian cap. In some churches in Italy, the Magi visiting the infant Jesus were depicted with this cap on their heads, which of course they probably didn't wear that cap, but anyway. It is rumored that these Magi were Zoroastrians from Iran. Cosimo de' Medici, the leader of the Medici family in Florence, who was brought to power by Venice, also preferred these caps when he had the Renaissance painter Benozzo Gozzoli depict him and his family in the scene of the biblical Magi. Now, of course, if you know about the Medici family, they're just like all these other top families. What is it? The Orsini family and the Firenze, or whatever they're called, the Borgia family, all these different elite families that are in league with the devil. So don't trust what they say. The Magi did not wear red caps. That's in their opinion because they have a false Christ and they believe that Lucifer is their savior. Of course, Lucifer, that's another caveat. Watch my Satan series. Lucifer is not the devil's name. Lucifer is actually a name in Latin that's applied to Christ, believe it or not. Of course, the occult have taken that to create Satan as their light bearer, as the one who brings them the true light. Anyway, moving on. The influence of the Mithras belief in Zoroastrianism in Iran continued after the introduction of Islam. The famous Iranian leader of the Hermetic assassins, Hassan Sabbah, was depicted by the Westerners with his red cap. The Shiite Qizbalash redheads were contributed to the establishment of the Safavid dynasty were called by this name because of the sun-colored cap they wore. Here's another cartoon from waving a bonnet rouge as patriots light a revolutionary bonfire with the mob destroys parliament. Yeah, this is the French Revolution. There's the red caps. The liberty cap. In ancient Rome, freed slaves were dressed in a white cap called a pileus. Brutus, who betrayed Caesar, chose this cap, which symbolizes freedom, as an expression of Rome's return to the Republic, and engraved on it the coin he minted. But this fez, which looks like the white cap worn by Albanians today, actually had nothing to do with the red Phrygian cap. With the American Revolution, the pileus became an omen of the revolutionaries, the anarchists, and the Republicans. Interesting. It resurfaced with the protests against the Stamp Act of 1765, when Britain imposed a direct stamped paper tax on the British colonies in America. In particular, a figure of the British Parliament, John Wilkes, named the Devil, had known for his support for the American rebels, with this cap became very popular among the rebels known as the Sons of Liberty. What does liberty look like? What does the Statue of Liberty look like? The light bearer, the Sons of Liberty, the Sons of the Sun. French anarchists who inherited the symbol from the American Revolution preferred the Phrygian cap instead of the pileus. Thus, this red hermetic cap became the symbol of the French revolutionaries and freedom from 1789 onwards. For example, in a sculpture made by French artist Joseph Chinard in 1794 representing the revolution, gosh, so many ads, I swear, and the Republic, a Phrygian cap was placed on the head of a woman in Roman attire. What does the Roman Empire have to do with the French Revolution, I wonder? Little Red Riding Hood. Today, the red cap of the Hermetics is on the coat of arms of many American countries, especially Latin American nations. The seal of the United States Senate, the emblem of the U.S. Army, and the seals of the 6 states' coats of arms of Colombia, Paraguay, and Argentina are just some of the examples. Finally, in the story of the red cap, one needs to mention Little Red Riding Hood, who rose from the dark belly of the wolf like a sun. Walt Disney's 1937 animation Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and Papa Smurf, the leader of the Smurfs in the Smurfs cartoons. Who knows, maybe the mushrooms in which the Smurfs live are actually psychedelic mushrooms known as Liberty Cap. So, of course, if you know how they do these things, these people, Walt Disney was a high-ranking Freemason. Everything he did with Mickey Mouse and all their occult nonsense with all of the things they would do. I mean, you could spend hours and hours and hours talking about these things. But what is the point of all this, folks? Well, what is the modern version of the Liberty Cap, of the Phrygian cap? It's the MAGA hat, folks. It's the MAGA hat. And if you know these things and where they come from, there is nothing new under the sun. MAGA is all about the false light. They're continuing the revolution, and they're just moving in a different direction. It's the same thing, folks. These people are practiced at creating revolutions, and they are masters at it at this point, after so many that they've done. They're masters at it. And with all the technology they have, they can form a narrative like this, and there's nothing new under the sun. But now, did you know, of course, we have another thing to talk about with the Olympics. So with the Olympics, what do we see? We saw that they're parading their little French Revolution occult sun-worshipping hats, as usual, because everybody's attention. What do they do with these events? There's a lot of attention, so they're using that attention to broadcast that attention towards their outcome, because they are synergistic. The occult believe in synergism, where the more attention you put on something, you can co-create the reality. And they're also giving out hundreds of thousands of Bibles, but they're Bibles that are ecumenical in nature, and that's going from dark to light. You also have this little bit of interesting history, besides the red hats, that the Catholic Church's role in the creation of the modern Olympics. The Olympic Games are one of the world's most prestigious international sporting events, attracting athletes and spectators from around the globe. While the origins of the ancient Olympics can be traced back to ancient Greece, the modern Olympic movement was founded in the late 19th century by a French nobleman named Pierre de Coubertin. What is less well known, however, is that de Coubertin was strongly influenced by his Catholic faith in his vision for the Olympic Games. You're going to see how strongly influenced he was. At the time that de Coubertin was developing his ideas for the modern Olympics, Catholic thinkers, educators, and institutions were playing a key role in the promotion of sports and physical education in Europe. Why? Because this is the pagan ideal, folks. The bread and circuses to keep you occupied so that you have idolatry and distractions so that you don't read the Word of God and you just get worldly in your system. This is a Jesuit idea, folks, just like it is with the theaters. Moving on. Catholic schools, universities, and sports clubs were among the pioneers of organized sports, and many Catholic leaders saw physical activity as an important means of promoting health, discipline, and moral values, i.e., spending time with the family on Sunday to watch a sports game. Do you see the point? And, of course, other such values. Now, of course, John, really quick break, in Revelation 13 tells you that the beast he sees that comes from the sea has all of these qualities from the previous beast that Daniel saw. Feet like a bear, teeth like a lion, skin like a leopard, or whatever it is. Ultimately, it's all the qualities of the previous empires. What does that mean? That means that the final power is a conglomerate of all of these pagan systems. And what does it tell you in this article? Well, yeah, the Olympics were actually a pagan thing that the Greeks celebrated because it was attached to worship. It was a religious event. It wasn't just for sports. They had religious activities and festivities and belief systems. Oh, you know what? I realized that this thing is not... Sorry about that. I just totally realized that it's not optimized for viewing. My bad. We'll drag it over here really quick. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so what was I saying? Was that John saw a conglomerate beast, a power that is a conglomerate of all these systems. The Olympics were a pagan religious activity, and now they have been reincorporated into the mindset of the world because this system is nothing new on its own. It's the mystery religion. And of course, the Bible tells you that the devil chose the Catholic Church as the way to manifest this mystery religion into the world at the very end. Anyway, moving on, let's catch our place here. One such leader was Father Henry Didon, a Dominican priest who was one of de Coubertin's mentors and advisors. Didon was a strong advocate for physical education and sports, and believed that they could help foster the virtues of teamwork, self-discipline, and self-sacrifice. He also saw sports as a means of promoting international understanding and peace. There it is. What does that actually mean? That means ecumenism, folks. And you're going to see how the Olympics are becoming moral and ecumenical. Are you starting to see a trend? Climate change, gone from secular to moral. AI, gone from secular to moral. Cryptocurrency needs to go. We need a moral authority over this thing because it's just so dark and evil. The Olympics, it's too hedonistic. It's too fleshly. We need a moral authority. Let's start passing out Bibles. Let's bring this moral authority back into the Olympics. You're going to see also where the next Olympics are and why that's been strategically placed. But either way, it's all going towards that outcome, which is ecumenism. What was I reading here? Which resonated with the Coubertin's own vision for the Olympic Games. So both Coubertin and his mentors were very much on the same page as to what the role of the Olympics would be. De Coubertin's Catholic background also influenced his view of the Olympics as a moral and spiritual enterprise. There it is. What did I tell you? He believed that the Games should not just be about competition and physical prowess, but should also promote the values of fair play, sportsmanship, and international fraternity. Doesn't the Pope love to use that word? International fraternity. Fratelli tutti was one of his recent encyclicals, which is the one on ecumenism. In his view, the Olympic Games had the potential to bring people from different nations and cultures together in a spirit of mutual respect and understanding. To achieve these lofty goals, de Coubertin drew on his Catholic-inspired ideals of education and pedagogy. He saw the Olympics as a means of educating the whole person, not just the body. And he emphasized the importance of character development and moral education in sports. So here's the quick question for you as we take a little teeny break. Has the Olympics been doing that? No. Initially it was light. It was the false light. Then it went to the dark. And now it's coming back out of the dark and into the false light back where it started as an ecumenical, moral situation. Do you understand where this is going, folks? And it's in perfect timing for everything else, just like we've been looking at. Moving on. He also believed that the games should be organized and run by educators rather than by professional sports organizations or governments. in order to preserve their educational and moral mission. The Olympics has a moral quality. It always had a moral quality, and it has a moral mission to bring the people around the world to be subservient to the beast. That's the moral quality and the mission of the Olympics. The first modern Olympic Games was held in Athens, Greece in 1896, which, by the way, that year is also when it was a couple years before that, I think 1893, World Parliament of Religions. So a lot of ecumenical things started at the end of the 19th century, which is a very important point. And they were a resounding success. The games featured athletes from 14 nations competing in a range of sports and were widely praised for their organization, sportsmanship, and spirit of international cooperation. De Coubertin's visions for the Olympics had been realized, and he continued to be a major figure in the Olympic movement for many years, serving as a president of the International Olympic Committee from 1896 to 1925. So the beginning of the Olympics was Catholic, and it had a moral mission. It has drifted away from that moral mission, just like we've had a liberal society over the last, 80 plus years, whatever, 70 years, whatever it's been, 60 years. And now things are shifting to the right. Now you're starting to see Bibles being passed out en masse in Paris at the City of Light, where the French Revolution happened, which, by the way, also interestingly enough, France was also where the papal decree by Justinian to elevate the little horn to basically the corrector of heresies, that's also where it happened. So France has a very interesting role prophetically, at least historically. That's been the place where the mortal wound happened. It's a place where the little horn was acknowledged as the power. So it's interesting to see these little flips from dark to light. But the Olympics was moral, and it always was moral because it was created by a Catholic. Here's Wikipedia, Pierre de Coubertin. Here he is. Seems like an outstanding gentleman. And if we go down really quick to, what's this section called? Early life. That's always a good section to look into. Get a lot of information there. In October 1874, his parents enrolled him in a new Jesuit school called Externat de la Rue de Vienne, which was still under construction for his first 5 years there. While many of the school's attendees were day students, Coubertin boarded at the school under the supervision of a Jesuit priest, which his parents hoped would instill in him with a strong moral and religious education. There he was among the top 3 students in his class and was an officer of the school's elite academy made up of its best and brightest. This suggests that despite his rebelliousness at home, Coubertin adapted well to the strict rigors of the Jesuit education. Now, if you know about the Jesuit oath, if you know about the Jesuit spiritual exercises and how they're designed to break your consciousness and to make you submissive to the authority that you're under, then this says a lot about Coubertin and his education. Look, I went to a Jesuit high school, but I didn't have a Jesuit mentor. We went to high school like normal people. It was an all boys high school, but that was that. It wasn't, like a boarding school. This is very involved. This man was at a boarding school, especially in the 1800s, which was very different with schooling, and he had a private Jesuit mentor who basically made him to be very obedient, and that's what influenced his decision, which other people and authorities in the Catholic Church agreed with, very ecumenical decision, to create these Olympic Games where everybody could come into a common moral understanding. Do you understand what the point is? These things are all designed for ecumenical purposes, and these people work on such enormous timescales, folks, because they understand that culture needs to go like this. It's like a wave. Dark to light, up and down, left and right, masculine, feminine, all this stuff is what they believe in. And they are willing to and basically engage in these long time sales because, again, they're dealing with supernatural beings. They're in league with fallen angels, with the devil, and they're getting their orders from, below at that point. But anyway, Olympics was Catholic. Now, where is the 2028 Olympics? Where's the next Olympic Games? That's an interesting thing. If you look into it, it's in Los Angeles. It's on the West Coast in America. Now, do you think, let's add a couple of things together. Project 2025. Lucius Trust tells you 2025 is a year of love and light and all this kind of stuff. Lucius Trust is all about the United Nations. The Catholic Church says that 2025 is a jubilee year of freedom and this, and the Pope's doing all these, traditions and opening the holy door for indulgences and so on. You have a flip with the European Sunday Alliance and the elections. Everybody's flipping to the right. In the United States, you have the things that happen with Trump. Everything's flipping to the right. The Olympics now, in Paris, the city of light where atheism was started, now you have the opposite happening. They burned Bibles 200 plus years ago. Now they're handing out hundreds of thousands of Bibles to people at these games. And you have the red hat, the red MAGA hat. You have all of these things. What do you have as a result? Well, the result is that by the time the Olympics come in 2028 to Los Angeles, you're going to see a very different culture in America. And that culture is going to be perfect timing to export the image to the rest of the world. Of course, by then, the world will already be ready for it in prime. If you see these other articles like that Finland article in the testimony of that man from Finland and all the other things I've talked about in my Dark to Light playlist, these things are already in play. By the time the Olympics comes to LA, you're going to see a vastly different culture. The Olympics will return back to its moral quality that it had in the very beginning. It's been very secular and fleshly. Everybody knows what happens when people go to the Olympics. It's nothing but carnal celebrations. However, that's the point. They've let it drift that way, just like they let Hollywood drift away, because Hollywood was Catholic in the beginning, folks. You need to understand these things. Just because we've had a little liberal history doesn't mean like the entirety of history has been liberal. Liberalism hasn't existed for like more than 200 years. Okay, 200, 250 years. The majority of human history of the last 2,000 years has been a religio-political system under the papacy, at least in the Western world. But they've infiltrated everywhere else. So you have to realize your history, but this is with the Olympics. Oh my gosh, here we go. This is another, if you know this is the Republican National Convention. And this is a woman named Harmeet Dillon, and she basically offers this pagan prayer. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, here we go.
Recite the Ardas prayer before any new endeavor, giving thanks to God and asking for his protection and help to uphold the values of humility, truth, courage, service, and justice for all. To show respect, we cover our heads when we pray.
What is... Oh, Lord. What does Paul say about head coverings? Now, of course, people, use that out of context, say, why do you wear a podcast? That's not what it's talking about, folks. Paul is not excluding all possible headwear for the rest of time. Paul is specifically speaking to a practice being done by the pagan authorities of his time. The Romans would cover their heads when they would go and offer sacrifices and basically do their prayers. The point of what Paul is saying about head coverings is not that head coverings, that for all time, even if people invent something called a baseball hat, can't wear that, it's a sin. No, he's saying be set apart from the world. Okay? Be set apart from whatever, like worldly practices, and certainly the spiritual practices of the world. So we're going to watch this a little bit, and we're going to talk about it a little bit as well, but why is the Republican National Convention having somebody come and do a prayer to a pagan god and doing all of this interfaith stuff? It's just, you're going to see all these things just mystery religion, folks. It's a mystery religion. Here she is. So she sings this prayer, and let's see if I can fast forward past it. And these people, like, you're letting this into your spirit. You're letting a pagan prayer. Look at these people who are, I don't know what faith they belong to, but they're probably very lukewarm ignorance that are just basically there and like, oh, okay, this is just a prayer. It's like, what are you doing? You're praying along with this person? You're letting her prayer and the offering that she's making to her pagan god, you're participating in that. I mean, this is just madness. Okay, let's...
Dear Waheguru, our one true
Here we
God.
go. Here we go. Ready?
Dear Waheguru, our one true God.
Who's the one true God? Well, the Bible tells you it's Yahweh, and of course, that God has revealed himself to the person of Jesus Christ. There is no other God besides Yahweh. Or Isaiah 44 verse 6 says that I am the first and the last. Besides me, there is no other God. He's very specific about the name he's used, Yahweh, which means the self-existent one. In Revelation 1 verse 7, Almighty God says, I am the first and the last. So is there any other God besides Almighty God? No. Well, there's the God of this world, we know that, who has many names and many faces, but there's only one true God. And then in Revelation 1 verse 17 through 18, Jesus says, I am the first and the last. So Almighty God, Yahweh, is Jesus Christ. He's the only true God. There's no other God besides Jesus. So when you say, Dear Waheguru, which we're going to read about, who is the enlightener, or the one true God, and these people are participating in this prayer, this person is lauded up and platformed to pray to a foreign God and call this God the one true God, you are slapping Jesus across the face and committing to such a heinous act of blasphemy. It's just profound. And they call themselves Christians.
We thank you for creating America as a unique haven on this earth where all people are free to worship according to their faith. We seek your blessings and guidance for our beloved country. Please bless our people with wisdom as they vote in the upcoming election, and please bless.
If the Bible reveals to you what the future is and has over 1,800 prophecies that have been predetermined by God, and the cross was predestined from before the foundation of the world, and the predetermined plan to reveal his glory that you cannot stop, you cannot rush, you cannot delay, do you really think that voting will do anything in such a reality?
With humility, honesty, skill, and integrity, all those who conduct the election. Finally, we thank you for the Chardi Kala spirit that we have witnessed in President Trump. That is, the tireless and uplifting spirit that is sustained even in the face of violent adversity.
Is she talking about the Holy Spirit of God, of Yahweh, which the Bible says is the Spirit of Christ? Is she talking about that spirit, or is she talking about a different spirit? Well, only one God, therefore there's only one Holy Spirit, and you're talking about a different spirit. What spirit are you recognizing?
Adversity, like a founding father centuries ago. And we thank you, dear God, for protecting his life. We thank you for his examples of nirbha, fearlessness, and nirvair, the absence of hate when faced with vitriol. These examples of extraordinary calm inspire us. Nanak Nam Chardi Kala Tere Bane Sarbata Pala. May your name forever be exalted, spreading happiness and blessings and good spirit, that everyone may prosper and enjoy the grace of your peace. Thank you.
What does the Bible say about peace and prosperity at the end of time? Yeah, it says when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction will come upon them. Read about Waheguru. This is from learnreligions.com. Let's learn about some religions. All right, Waheguru, the wondrous enlightener. Did God ever call himself a wondrous enlightener? I don't think so. Waheguru is the name used by Sikhs when referring to God. It is a compound of several words. Wahe, wonderful, awe-inspiring. Gu, dark, gooey attachment. Ru, a liberating ray of light. The word guru refers to a religious guide or teacher. Waheguru means wondrous enlightener. The Sikh scripture Guru Granth teaches that with grace, salvation may be attained by meditating on Nam, or the identity of the divine enlightener. Is that how the Bible says salvation is obtained? By meditating on some identity of, some hidden identity of mysterious of God. God has revealed to you his identity. He is not mysterious. In the person of Jesus Christ, he's very revealed and very transparent. And you aren't saved by meditating on his identity. You are saved by repenting of your unbelief and accepting the payment that Christ has made on your behalf. Otherwise, you have to pay. Somebody has to pay, either Jesus or you. And if you refuse that payment, then you are not saved. So you could sit there and meditate and do mantras and try to attain communion with God all you want. But Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. There's no way to the Father unless you go through me. He also says don't pray like the pagans do because they think they'll be heard for their many prayers. What is that a point to? It's a point to all the mantras and repetitions that pagans do because they're synergists, thinking that if I do 100 of these and I back and forth and I do all this, then God is going to respond to me. I'll be able to communicate with God. That is the pagan mindset. That is the mystery religion, folks. And that mystery religion is on full display at the Republican National Convention. Sikhs are encouraged to remember God always by a method known as Simran. Instruction is given during initiation at the time of baptism to recite Gur Mantar, a term which means a mantra of Waheguru. What did I just say? What did I just say? Gur Mantar is to be recited as a meditation in the Amrit Vela early morning hours and also throughout the day. So, what did we just say? Do not pray like the pagans do, for they think they will be heard for their many prayers. They're not heard. You're not going to make God react to you. Who is sovereign if you're the one making God react to you? God does interact with his creation, and he does answer prayers. But everything that he answers is because he's predetermined to answer it for his glory. You are not pulling on his sleeve and saying, come on. Oh, okay, fine, I'll answer your prayer. That's not how things work. If that was the case, then God wouldn't be sovereign. And of course, the God of the mystery religion is not sovereign. So is she praying to the God of the Bible? Just calling him a different name? No, she's praying to a different God, folks. This is the God of this world. A God that is not the God of the Bible, and a God that offers salvation through meditation on his name with certain mantras and prayers and doing works. That's not Jesus Christ. That's not Yahweh. That's the God of this world. So the God of this world is being praised at the Republican National Convention. Here's an article from the Christian Post, which of course, the word Christian doesn't mean what it used to mean. So anytime you hear Christian, it's usually ecumenical, and certainly this is proof of that. Christian Post says, Sikh prayer at RNC. Why, as an evangelical, I have no problem with this. I have no problem, by Richard D. Land, Christian Post executive editor of the Christian Post. He has no problem. I have no problem with her praying to a foreign God who is not the God of the Bible. Very clearly so, because the God of the Bible is Jesus Christ, and there's no other name under which you will be saved. And you're saved by faith and repentance, not by praying in mantras. And God also is triune. That's a mystery of his being that is unique to him, whereas Waheguru is just an entity. So no, that is not the same God, and you should have a problem with it. If you don't have a problem with it, then you are blind. And so the editor, I'm not going to read this article, but I just want to show you the headline. The chief editor of the Christian Post, not having a problem with it, shows you exactly what type of avenue this is. This person is deceived, or at the most, he's just a part of the club. Of course, he's covered things like The Chosen and all these other things, so I'm not surprised at this article. I'm really not. And sadly, that's the truth, is that I'm not surprised. But it tells you everything, folks. It tells you everything about what this counterfeit... Here's another one. Oh, gosh. This is the pastor that imitates Trump. And he's a Lutheran pastor, but of course he looks like a Catholic priest, and he probably is a Catholic underneath. But let's see. I'll show you something here. Where's he at? Where's his little hands? Okay. Let's see if we can find it.
Believe me.
So here we go.
Give you this promise. You're going to be so blessed.
Boom, boom. Right on stage. Double hand signs. Now, of course, look, you could argue, oh, he's just having fun. He's just trying to imitate. But if he's just imitating Trump, Trump makes these hand signs all the time. You know that. So the imitation works because it's pointing to the truth. Now, on a deeper level, I think this guy is just a secret society member. And another reason is, why is a pastor coming to the Republican National Convention? Why are they marrying religion and politics in such a blatant way? And it's interfaith and, it's comedy, it's all this stuff. It's just this new thing. This is the mystery religion, folks. It's the mystery religion being unified in front of your face. Here's another example of the mystery religion. If you look up RNC stage dollar or dollar bill, I can't zoom in, unfortunately, but you have this, you can look it up yourself, but they had this stage, and on part of the stage, they had this, actually, I wonder if I can click on it. Let's see. Is there a picture? Yes, there's a picture. Yay. Okay, look. Look at this pyramid right in the middle of the stage. Okay? There's a pyramid right in the middle of the stage. Oh gosh, so many ads. And what does it say? Novus Ordo Seclorum, New World Order, with a pyramid, the illuminated pyramid, and where the illuminated eye is, where the enlightenment comes from, where the new download, the new information is coming from. They've put the screen, the TV screen of the speakers, because each speaker is the light bringer, and it's in their role as being propped up in this particular event is to put forward a particular agenda and to have you believe a certain thing. So they are doing the bidding of their illuminated masters. But, you present this to people who are hardcore Trump supporters. They say, oh, no, it's just a dollar bill. It's just, it's about making wealthy again and being, prosperity and all stuff. Like, really, bro? Like, really? Like, if you were to go case in point, when the Democrats had their Democratic National, you know what? Let me just search for this actually. Let's see if we can find it. DNC Satan symbol or pentagram, maybe. Decoding the symbols of Satan statue. Okay, let's see. Yeah, look at this. Okay, look at this. People were going nuts over the DNC logo in, I forget what year, but the DNC had their little star logo in the D, and of course people were like, oh, look, it's a pentagram, it's Satan, they're satanic. If the DNC did the same thing and they had a dollar bill that said New World Order on it, and the way exactly the Republican National Convention is doing it, what would these people say? Oh my gosh, look at these devil worshipers, look at New World Order is coming, the Great Reset. But again, they don't use the same standard of judgment. They don't use it at all because they aren't judging rightly. They are using a double standard, one for Trump, one for, the other guys. And of course, it's always different. This is the bone-chilling video that I saw on Instagram. You got to watch this. The One World Church is being born. He's here. Revival. Look at this. This is only the beginning, folks. Get ready. Catholic megachurches are going to be a thing. The One World Church is being born. The beast will be worshipped. Oh my gosh, what a crazy video. Catholic megachurches. Imagine revival, Catholic revival, using the megachurch, the charismatic movement, the ecumenical force of all of these existing apostate megachurches like Bethel and Hillsong. Profound, totally profound to see what's going on here. I didn't even aware of this, but now that I see it. I see this as the future. It's going to be a revival. And of course, all of the liberal things that are happening with Pope Francis, going back to Vigano and his commentary against the Pope, all these things are designed to push people to the right. And you're going to see more of these types of things. A Catholic megachurch revival where you're unifying institutionalization with the charismatic movement, with the Protestants, with everything. It's wow. I mean, it's just what a profound video. I hope it was as profound for you as it was for me. Here's another one.
This is a beautiful thing to see. And there's a lot of people who feel this exact same way.
Beautiful. Let's see how beautiful this is.
Check it out.
9 years ago, this was me. I was 17 years old and I was protesting Donald Trump at a rally. I'm making this video so hopefully you can realize that it's okay to admit that you were wrong.
It's okay to go from dark to light.
A lot of us fell victim to the media's lies and a lot of us hated Donald Trump. You could see that I had a very articulate message and logic and reasoning behind my hatred for the man. No, Trump bad. I encourage all of you to watch the pinned video on this account, Tim Pool's interview with Donald Trump, where he talks about how he wants to bring peace to the world.
What does the Bible say about that?
I know I want peace. I'm sure that you want peace.
I want peace through Christ. I want Christ to return, to resurrect me, my family, the people who believe in him, to renew the world. And I know that that will happen. So I want that.
I know back then I wanted peace, but I was hoodwinked, tricked, lied to, and deceived by the media. Don't be afraid to let go of your ego and admit that you were wrong.
This is a beautiful...
Oh, goodness. This is why they do these things in timetables, folks. People think like, well, Biden won and they stole the election. Like, that was planned, dude. That was so that you could have more and more exposition of the big bad deep state bad cop. And people such as this person could now convert from being deceived by the left. Now you're being deceived by the right. Oh man, that bad cop was horrible. You know what, good cop, you're my savior. This is the point. And so they do these things over large time frames, although this hasn't taken too much time, relatively speaking, so that waves of things can happen. So very interesting. One more article here in this little section. This is the Believers Summit, which is interesting symbology with this little flame. They have two flames here on the back one, which is the big flame, but in the actual writing, it looks to me like a threefold flame. Could be wrong, but either way, it's just an interesting situation. So this is a summit by Turning Point in Action, which of course you watched my previous VDS episode with Charlie Kirk and his associations with Project 2025. He's like one of the people on the board or whatever. He's all about the Sabbath and Sabbath laws. So you know where this is going. But there's more and more of these things, folks. Believers Summit. I've talked about Life Surge with, all the fusion of personal growth and entrepreneurship and Christian, quote unquote, Christian values. It's all just this counterfeit charismatic thing, folks. This is just nothing new. Like Reawaken America tour where they were doing baptisms and Michael Flynn was praying to the, 7 rays of the devil, basically reciting, what's her name? Alice Bailey's prayer or Elizabeth Clare Prophet. I always confuse those two, but they're both Satanists. So either way, he was citing one of them literally verbatim and people were praying along with him. This is the Great Delusion, folks. This mystery religion that is expressing itself through interfaith, through, blatant blasphemy of God under the guise of righteousness, and through the fusion of the world with the gospel, with creating a false gospel. Anyway, there's something I want to show you. There's this Turning Point in Action speakers. Donald Trump is going to be at this Believers Summit. Frank Turek, Dr. Ben Carson, all of these, Charlie Kirk, Allie Beth Stuckey, she's really popular on YouTube. All of these people who are authorities and clean-cut Seth Dillon, Calvin Robinson. I wonder if he's a Catholic. I think he's a Catholic priest. Maybe not. Maybe he's a Lutheran. Who knows? There's so many of these people, and they're all on the same team. Doug Wilson, he's all about Christian nationalism or religious nationalism. I'm trying to get that out of my vocabulary. Graham Allen. These people, this is the new thing, folks, is getting these events to shape the culture with a fusion of lukewarm, worldly Christianity, fresh faces, young talent, exciting, materialistic, prosperity, abundance, nonsense. This is what it's all about. It's really profound how they're shaping culture through all these different things. Look, they even have music. Mac Brack, Kim Walter Smith. Why is worship led by who? Who are these people that they could lead worship? Do you understand? Like, who are these people that they lead you into worship? Who are you worshiping through all these things? You're worshiping the papal power because the papal power is designing these things to bring the world to its knees, just like you saw in that last video. Oh my goodness. So that was that for the first tab. Conclusion. The article on the Roman Catholic Church and cryptocurrency tells you everything, folks. It really does. Like I said, if you could remember one thing from this entire presentation, that says everything. And if you don't see that as a sign of the end, then I don't know what to tell you. Tennessee passing a law telling you how to pray and fast and that you should do it, that it's a good thing. That's also a sign of the end. It's extremely worrying because it's telling you that an authority, people are getting accustomed to, I'll say this over and over again, people are getting accustomed to a authority that's not God telling them what to do morally. Do you understand? This is what they're doing right now. And it's starting with these innocuous little things that seem, we're just doing that because people need it. We've been so, secular and all so on. It starts with these types of things. And when the water is warm and comfy, that's when the temperature is going to keep rising and it's going to cook you alive. The RNC was also a disaster. It's an ecumenical, interfaith, blasphemous endeavor, while all the while parading their occult New World religion in your face, while they're doing the ecumenical interfaith stuff through the Lutheran, quote unquote, pastor, through what her name was, the Sikh woman that was basically offering her prayer to the enlightened one. I mean, ultimately, look, again, you got to use the same standard. If the DNC did that, people would be up in arms. But if the RNC does it, oh no, it's just money. It's not a big deal. You have to remember that if there was a deep state and they controlled all of these aspects of society, like the media, like politics and so on, do you really think that they would be exposed by these random people like Alex Jones or Donald Trump? They would be exposed and you could vote your way out of the deep state. Come on, folks. The Bible tells you so clearly that the end of this story before Jesus returns is that the devil will be worshipped. You don't have to be a Bible scholar or a history buff to understand what that means in context of the current situation. If the Bible tells you it is a predestined fact that the devil will be worshipped by most of the world, and most of the world will take his mark of obedience, that's unavoidable. The New World Order will happen. The Great Reset will happen. It's not going to be voted away or transitioned away from. They're transitioning into it. So if the Bible says that, and these people own the internet, do you really think that you're seeing the dark side being exposed? You're not. You're seeing what they want you to see because they're creating the alternative narrative now and shuffling people from one side to another. What's happening now is a major shift. We've crossed an inflection point with Trump, especially because he's sort of the anchor for a lot of these things, with Zionism, with the religious nationalism and politics and so on. Watch my Dark to Light playlist, watch my Christian nationalist playlist. All these things are becoming moral. Everything's becoming moral. From the Olympics to AI to climate change to cryptocurrency, everything is now becoming, we need a moral discussion. We need a morality discussion around this. And of course, that's going to lead, problem, reaction, solution, to requiring a moral authority to tell you what to do about it. And of course, that moral authority will be the Pope, and it's going to be fused with the Pope's value system, which is obedience on Sunday. Everything is fusing through ecumenism, through all of these false light, miracles and wonders. Again, it's all by false signs and wonders, folks. The Believers Summit, Life Surge, Reawaken America Tour, these are false signs and wonders of Satan, folks. You don't have to like raise people from the dead for it to be a false sign and wonder. Look at the delusion that these things are creating. These are false signs and wonders. What happened with Trump was a false sign and wonder that is cementing people in a delusion, that is allowing them to be prepped for the reality of accepting the authority of the Pope. It's going to happen. All right, so with that, I'm going to take a little quick break to get some water, and we'll come back to JD Vance. Alrighty, well, welcome back. Our next topic is JD Vance and looking at all of his associations and worrisome connections, because again, it proves the trajectory of history. This is a video from Biblical Hope. They're Adventists, but again, they have some good things to say. So again, just eat the meat, spit out the bones, but they do cover the recent things with Trump and Vance pretty well. So this is just a short video.
Rushed video that there's something major that just went down.
Oh, this is on double speed, because that's how you should listen to videos. They're very effective that way. Normal. Okay.
I want all of y'all to pass this on to your friends.
So for all you complaining that my videos are too long, just listen to it double speed, folks. You got timestamps and twice the listening on YouTube. You have no excuse not to learn.
This is Red Alert, folks. We just got word that JD Vance is going to be Donald Trump's running mate. And the reason why that matters for the SDA eschatological position is we've always expected a Sunday law. And I want to let you know who this guy's chums are, because some of them I've interacted with personally on social media. I want you to take a look. Donald Trump picked JD Vance as the running mate option and a MAGA favorite. Back in October of 2022, he presented at Sohrab Ahmari, a Catholic editor of the, I believe it was the Catholic Tribune or something like that back in the day. But Sohrab Ahmari had this conference on restoring a nation, the common good, and the American tradition. Now, at this conference that Sohrab Ahmari put together was JD Vance. You also had Dr. Chad Pecknold as well. Now, I'm going to introduce you to these fellows and remind you and bring to your memory what happened 2 years ago. Sohrab Ahmari wrote for Deseret News and was asked the question, would you support restored Sabbath laws and more broadly public activism toward policies of this nature? He said, that's my jam, man, definitely. This is the guy who blocked me on Twitter because I opposed it and discussed that we're the ones that are passing out great controversies. We oppose union of church and state. Among other things, the other author for that was Adrian Vermeule. Adrian Vermeule was known to be writing articles and stuff online. I'm going to show you some screenshots of some of the tweets where he was retweeting Sohrab Ahmari's stuff. But let's take a look here at some of the statements that were made at JD Vance's conference where he went to with Sohrab Ahmari. So this was Dr. Chad Pecknold. You can take a look at this at the Franciscan University of Steubenville. Let's take a look here.
Commerce.
There it is, folks.
Cessation of all that commerce, of that Mac boondoggle or whatever that.
And we talked about this in the last Venerable Day of the Sun episode too, but
what I'm pointing out here is that these guys are all on the Sunday Law train. Their associate who came and presented at their conference, JD Vance, is now Trump's VP. And we've got Project 2025 that's coming, trying to promote federal policies for protection of Sunday rest. So let me just show you guys this right here. You can take a look. These are some of the tweets that I had saved as part of some of the Sunday Law updates I was doing like last year, where Adrian Vermeule, this Harvard law professor, is the same one who's reposting like all of these pushes from Sohrab Ahmari about specifically the Sabbath. Folks, it's coming. It's coming. It's like
it is crazy. And if you know, we'll read some about these guys, but what you can see as a trend is these people, what they do is they convert to Catholicism. You'll see a lot of like Sohrab Ahmari is a recent convert. He was Iranian, but he's a recent convert. Same thing with JD Vance. He converted to Catholicism like in 2019. You look at Russell Brand. We looked at Candace Owens. All these people convert and then suddenly they become super militant and start to shape the culture, tell people about this, tell people about that. That's what they do, folks, because this is their own. They are owned. They're by their puppet masters. They convert. They take, the bribe or the threat or whatever else, and they do their master's bidding. So this is Sohrab Ahmari. Did I highlight something here? I did. Personal life. There we go. Ahmari was raised as a 12 Shia Muslim, but later embraced atheism, ultimately later converting to Catholicism in 2016. So only 8 years ago, he's converted to Catholicism. And he is like one of the main people pushing for these Sunday laws, which is a very interesting situation. In late September 2016, he wrote a 3-page article about his conversion in the Catholic Herald, which was the cover story of the September 30th, 2016 issue. So he is a recent convert to Catholicism, and he's very adamant about Sunday laws. This is, I believe, one of the things that the author in that video was referencing. Legislating morality, restoring the Sabbath, how Sohrab Ahmari wants to mend our broken thread of tradition. This is from 2021. If I can get ads, and let's see, where are we at? There's something I highlighted here. Oh, I guess I deleted my highlights. Okay, there we go. Just had to refresh it. Sometimes refresh works. Sometimes it deletes it altogether and I have to find what else I highlighted before. Anyway, the Western march toward unfettered freedom should be a triumph when viewed in the rearview mirror of oppression, tyranny, and slavery. But Sohrab Ahmari pops that balloon with a simple question. At what cost has freedom come? At what cost has the atheistic system come? We need to return back to the Mother Church. Op-ed editor of the New York Post, Ahmari argues that the moral liberations meant to free us have in many ways ensnared us. His newly released book, The Broken Thread, discovers the wisdom of tradition in a world of chaos. explores how to combat the effects of a society that fixates on the wrong sort of freedom. What's the right sort of freedom? According to the Bible, it's through Christ. Faith in Christ and repentance gives you true freedom. Freedom from sin, freedom from the world, freedom from the influence of the devil, from demons, and so on. That's true freedom. But what this man is arguing is freedom in tradition. And of course, that's slavery, because Jesus rebukes tradition in his interactions with the scribes and Pharisees. Desert News. This is the interview now. You lament the demise of society's observance of the Sabbath and also laws that used to govern communities during the Sabbath. Does the government have a role to, as I'll put it, legislate morality? His answer. Government legislates morality no matter what. There is no government that one way or another doesn't legislate some morality, which is true. It is true. But what the Bible warns you is that this particular power will think itself to be God and demand worship. The question is, which morality is it? It is. Is it God's or is it the devil's? That's the question. Is it a true one? Is it a time-tested one? In declining to legislate morality, government nevertheless legislates morality. By the license that you permit a people, you signal that's what's okay. Now, on the Sabbath, I would just say this. In the United States, which is a sort of a paradigmatic liberal society, we've had a Sabbatarian tradition since before the Republic was founded. Not just in Puritan New England, but in colonial Virginia, which was supposedly more secular, and in New Amsterdam, New York. And all of these colonial authorities imposed a Sabbatarian tradition from a Protestant point of view, and that tradition persisted up till not long ago, which is true. And if you've studied these things like we have in the previous episodes and in my Sabbath series and practically every other video I've talked about these things in history, what did the Puritans do? They flogged people for not coming to church. If you did any work on Sunday, you would be fined. People would tell on you. They'd whisper. Gossip was all over the place. They would denigrate you. They would put you in prison. And they sometimes would even kill you if it was sinning with a high hand against God. So yeah, tradition is not always the best, folks. And history reveals that. But he won't mention that part. The idea wasn't just that society is better ordered if it sets aside one day for honoring God in the image of God's own rest, in the image of God's own celebration of creation, and that it's good for people from a spiritual point of view to spend one day with the Bible, with Scripture, with contemplation, with the things of God. Yes, all of this is good, but which day is that? According to the Bible, it's the seventh day. It's also that it had benefits for the worldly common good. There it is. Ding, 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 ding. Chicken, chicken dinner. Winner, winner. Common good is another Jesuit term that you should be very familiar with. We spend 6 days of the week in a constant mode of acquisitiveness, rivalry, economic competition, geopolitical competition, at each other's throats. And it was good, especially for working class people, to have one day where we could all just cease from this kind of rivalry that shapes the rest of our lives. Oliver Wendell Holmes, the great jurist who is no religious man, nevertheless said, quote, "Whoever invented the Sabbath was a friend of the working man." I think there's some more I highlighted here. Would you support restored Sabbath laws and more broadly public activism toward policies of this nature? Soreb, that's my jam, man. Definitely. I think this is the part that the guy in the video quoted. But yeah, this is his jam. His jam is to support Sabbath laws, folks. And he's one of the main guys at the conference hanging out with JD Vance and all of these other people together. This is USA Today. Is JD Vance Catholic? What to know about Trump's VP pick's religion? Oh, we know what his religion really is, but anyway. Gosh, so many ads. These people are just frothing at the mouth for ads. As Vice President, JD will continue to fight for our Constitution, stand with our troops, and will do everything he can to help make America great again, Trump wrote in his Truth Social platform. Vance, 39, was a fierce Trump critic in 2016. We're going to look at that part later today. But is now one of the former president's staunchest defenders, embracing his false claims that the 2020 election was marred by widespread fraud. Vance is also a practicing Catholic, although relatively new to the faith, as he was baptized in August 2019. In a blog post for the Catholic journal The Lamp in 2020, Vance describes how he was raised Christian, but later identifies as an atheist when in college at Ohio State University. Kind of like Soreb Amari, right? He went from dark to light. Isn't that interesting? Because the Catholicism created atheism. Then at Yale Law School, he describes being introduced to philosopher René Girard through entrepreneur Peter Thiel, who is a name will be very important in Vance's description in the following articles. Girard's insight that human civilizations are founded on a scapegoat myth or violence against the common enemy is a major part of what brought him to the truth, Vance wrote. So that's it. Did I highlight that? If Trump and Vance win in November's election, Vance would become the country's second Catholic vice president. President Joe Biden was the first when elected vice president under former President Barack Obama in 2008. So interesting. And if Trump does become president, which he will, and Vance is his vice president, and then Vance runs for president after that, you're going to have the first Catholic president, which would be really interesting. I think that would be the first. I don't think there was, JFK was Catholic, actually, never mind. I think JFK was Catholic. But either way, you would have a Catholic president at that point, and that would be in 2028 when the Olympics come, and all of those things are in time. It's setting things up, folks, for America to pay its homage to the beast. And of course, the Bible tells you that America is the false prophet that convinces the rest of the world to build an image to the beast, meaning to honor the beast by creating a political and religious system as the beast enjoyed and giving their power to the beast. So all of these things are in alignment. They really are, that you can't deny it. It's just so straightforward, and it's profound to see these things happen. This is from newrepublic.com. Who does JD Vance think he's fooling? This is from 2021 also, a little bit earlier, but it reveals some important things. Hillbilly Elegy, which cited liberals like Raj Chetty and William Julius Wilson respectfully, was about promoting understanding between a deeply alienated white working class and the book-buying cultural elite. This is a book that JD Vance wrote. He was, I guess, relatively famous for. But that was the old Vance. The new Vance is about politics as total war. We really need to be really ruthless when it comes to the exercise of power, Vance said last week on the Federalist Radio Hour. Conservatives, Vance said, have lost every major powerful institution in the country except for maybe churches and religious institutions, which of course are weaker now than they ever have been. We have lost big business, we have lost finance, we have lost the culture, we have lost the economy, i.e. we've lost those 7 mountains that we need to conquer, folks. 7 mountains for Christ, the 7-mountain mandate. Otherwise, the devil's going to conquer them, right? An admiring reader of Hillbilly Elegy might interpret this as a prelude to a lengthy consideration of where conservatives went astray. That admiring reader would be wrong. Quote, if we're going to actually really affect real change in this country, Vance said, it will require us to completely replace the existing ruling class with another ruling class, i.e. the Great Reset. Unless we overthrow them in some way, we're going to keep losing. It wasn't even clear Vance was talking about only Democrats and liberals. So we have to overthrow them. So he was a very different person. Suddenly he converted to Catholicism. Now he's doing very different things. He's all about Trump. He's very militant. He's all about religious nationalism and uniting religion and politics, and so on and so forth. So very interesting. That to me just tells me that he was initiated into the next level. And this is the thing. This is from David Icke on X. Globalist Peter Thiel's business partner JD Vance is Trump's running mate. What a few days for Trump. The shooting, financial and promotional support from Elon Musk and other billionaires, the dropping of criminal charges over classified documents today, and the Republican nomination convention 2 days after the shooting, at which he was made JD Vance his potential vice president. Vance is the business associate of billionaire Peter Thiel, who serves on the steering committee of the globalist Bilderberg Group and is the founder of Palantir. We're going to read about Palantir, which provides surveillance and other tech for the Pentagon and intelligence networks. Thiel and Vance also invest in Rumble and fund the Roman Catholic Hallow prayer app promoted by people like Russell Brand. Thiel was on Trump's transition team after he won the election in 2016. Quite an anti-globalist, anti-deep state lineup then. Yeah, sure is. He's totally deep state. Because there is no deep state. The deep state is all around you. The deep state isn't just the dark, folks. That's the thing to realize. The deep state is the dark and the light. So now he's just playing ball for the other side. This is from Religious News Service, religionnews.com. And it says, 5 faith facts about Trump's VP pick JD Vance. Let's read some faith facts about his VP pick. And I think this is one of those things where I had to refresh. Let's see. Did it bring my highlight back? Okay, well, I guess it didn't bring my highlight back, but we'll read some of these guys. I think I remember them. First one is, Vance is an adult convert to Catholicism. Vance converted to Catholicism in August of 2019 when he was baptized and confirmed at St. Gertrude Priory in Cincinnati, Ohio, by the Reverend Henry Stephan, a Dominican friar. According to an interview with American expatriate and writer Rod Dreher, who was present at the baptism, Vance chose St. Augustine as his patron saint. Now that's significant. If you know anything about St. Augustine, he wrote a book called The City of God, and he was all about the church as an institution being the kingdom of God, very much the early religious nationalist, so to speak. So St. Augustine is not somebody to elevate on a pedestal. He had some good things to say about predestination, but he also had some really wacky things to say, like every other church father. And certainly his book, The City of God, was the prep for the belief that the church is this militant physical kingdom that needs to expand. So he chose St. Augustine as his patron saint. That is, to me, very intentionally done. Anyway, Vance told Dreher that he'd converted because he became persuaded over time that Catholicism was true. How did he get persuaded, I wonder? And had observed that the people who meant the most to him were Catholic. So far we have emotional reasons why what you believe is what you believe. Oh, I got persuaded that it's true, and all the people around me that I really love are Catholic, so it must be true. Vance said his conversion would have happened sooner if not for the clergy sexual abuse crisis, which forced me to process the church as a divine and human institution and what it would mean for my 2-year-old son. Before becoming Catholic, Vance, now a father of 3, was raised by Christian relatives, including many who didn't go to church. Around when he started law school, he went through an angry atheist phase, as he told Dreher. If elected, he would be the second Catholic vice president in U.S. history after Joe Biden. Vance is tied to Catholic integralism, an ideology that seeks Christian influence over society. Vance is tied to an ideology known as Catholic integralism, an intellectual movement that experts say prefers a soft power approach to exerting Christian influence over society. Thinkers in the movement herald the importance of a Christian strategic advisor to people in power. I wonder who the advisor of the strategic advisors is. As Kevin Valier, a professor at Bowling Green State University, an expert in Catholic integralism, told RNS earlier this year, quote, "There's the sense that the liberal order is so corrupt, dark, that the elite Catholics have to find positions of influence and use them in a kind of noble and appropriate way. Light." They've been doing that for a while, folks. All your senators are Knight of Malta members, Knights of Columbus, Freemasons. They're all part of the same club. It's all just drinking out of the devil's pot. Harvard University's Adrian Vermeulen, a leader in the movement, stated that integralists once viewed Trump as a figure similar to Constantine the Great. What did Constantine do? What is Constantine known for, folks? Come on, you know this one. It's easy. The Roman emperor who converted to Christianity. Did he convert? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that he did. Vermeulen has also praised Trump by likening him to the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, a leader widely decreed as being authoritarian. Constantine the Great. I love that. I love that comparison. Vance, for his part, spoke at a 2022 gathering at the Franciscan University at Steubenville that was widely associated with integralism and new right politics. Vance has yet to answer questions about his own thoughts regarding Catholic integralism. Something about his wife, which is not super important. Vance thinks Christianity is an answer to existential questions about American identity. During a 2023 talk hosted by American Moment, Vance brought up Christian nationalism, which he dismissed as a term meant to be very scary. Don't worry about it, it's not too bad. But he went on to explain how he envisions Christianity informing American life, and particularly American identity. We're a country that is majority Christian nominally, but not nearly majority Christian in terms of practice. We're a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious democracy that's heavily exposed to the economic forces of globalization. There's that big bad cop over again. And I think that we have not yet figured out how to harmonize that with some basic sense of what it means to be an American in the 21st century. I happen to think that the Christian faith is a good way of helping provide an answer to that question. Now, if you're hearing that from a militant Catholic who's all about the deep state, he's obviously bought and paid for, and he's all about Christian integralism and in infiltrating society with Catholic values. When he says, I happen to think that the Christian faith is a good way of helping provide an answer to that question, what do you think he's actually saying? He's saying, I happen to think that Catholicism is the answer, not the Christian faith, because Catholicism doesn't want the Christian faith, because the Christian faith is the gospel. That's the true Christian faith. Catholicism wants Catholicism, and its agents, which are propped forward and positioned in positions of power, want the same thing for their masters. When he converted, Vance said his views on public policy were aligned with Catholic social teaching. There you go. Part of social conservatism's challenge for viability in the 21st century is that it can't just be about issues like abortion, but it has to have a broader vision of political economy and, you ready for the word? The common good. Ding, 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 ding. Winner, winner, chicken dinner, Mr. Vance. You got a nice chicken dinner at the Jesuit get-together that is happening all over the world, which is, of course, the common good. Who determines the common good, folks? Every time you hear the common good and Catholic social teaching, this is really Jesuit teaching. Jesuits are the ones that created communism and this collectivist mentality, which really is designed to bring you into a collectivist mentality that will honor one man as the authority of all things religious and political over your life. That's the goal, folks. So when you hear the word common good, the first question you should have as a well-fed, healthy Fennec fox, you should ask right away, who determines the common good? Who determines the common good? That's what I want to know. If it's God who determines the common good, then okay, great, that's fine. But God doesn't talk about the common good in the Bible, which is also interesting. But of course, it's not God who determines the common good. Who determines the common good? They are appealing to something that sounds good. Yes, the common good. Yes, we all want the common good. Well, wait a minute. Who determines what is good and what is bad? Because the Pope says it's good to rest on Sunday, whereas the Bible tells you that's blasphemy, and that's going to be the mark, and you're going to be damned if you do it. So who determines what is good? Moving on. His statements about abortion and immigration may trigger blowback from some Catholics. I think that wasn't too important. And yada, yada. That was basically the thing I want to read to you, is to show you the common good. Again, Soreb Akhmari, or whatever the guy's name, the common good. JD Vance, the common good. That's all you need to know, folks. That's all you really need to know. I mean, seriously. There's much more we're looking at, but that's all you need to know. It's from Yahoo Finance, how JD Vance's Silicon Valley connections helped launch him into Trump's VP slot. Donald Trump's selection, Senator JD Vance, to be his running mate elevates a figure with long-standing financial connections that are sure to play a role in the rest of the 2024 campaign. And if Trump wins in November, Vance will instantly become a key conduit to wide swaths of the business world, from powerful corners of Silicon Valley to manufacturers he championed both as a venture capitalist and as a senator. What does this tell you? That means that he's bought and paid for. And you're going to find out by who. Time living in San Francisco. After graduating from Yale Law School in 2013, Vance spent time living in San Francisco. I wonder, by the way, if he's like Skull and Bones or, all these other secret societies that are there. Anyway, he spent some time living in San Francisco, where he worked at Mithril Capital. That firm was co-funded by Peter Thiel, the former PayPal CEO who has long been a major giver to Republicans, and Ajay Royan. Is JD Vance a non-biased candidate? Is he owned by people for certain agendas? The answer is yes, he's owned. This is from Barons.com. Peter Thiel must back tech critic JD Vance. What the VP pick means for stocks. This is from July of 2024, this year. Oh, I don't want to subscribe. Leave me alone. Okay, let's see. What do we got? What did I highlight here? I don't think I highlighted anything on this one. Oh, I did. I did highlight something. Here we go. Now that Senator JD Vance is officially Donald Trump's running mate for the November election, his views on technology companies could make more of a difference in Washington. Yes, they could. We need a moral authority behind that Bitcoin and behind that AI and all this stuff. Vance worked as a venture capitalist in Silicon Valley for years, so tech is an area he knows well. And while he has been critical of big tech, such as Google and Facebook, he also has deep ties to the sector, i.e. Daniel 11, two kings working mischief at the same table. Do you get it yet? His high-profile backers include tech entrepreneur Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, CEO of yada, yada, yada. So he is bought and paid for, folks. So much for the deep state, right? Peter Thiel plays kingmaker again as Trump picks JD Vance for Veep from July of 2024. Donald Trump's pick for vice president may be good news for Peter Thiel. The former PayPal CEO has played an outsized role in helping JD Vance's career rocket. Thiel has a long history of putting figures of his choosing on a path to glory. The first day of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee was not just a monumental moment for the former venture capitalist JD Vance, but a defining moment in the career of another venture capitalist, Peter Thiel. For a 39-year-old Vance, the now Ohio senator picked by Donald Trump on Monday to be his running mate in the Republican Party's battle for the White House, a career in politics, let alone a position in the right-hand man of the former president, may never have happened without an early bet from Silicon Valley's top kingmaker. While Vance made his push in politics apparent with his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, which we looked at, in 2016, it was Thiel, the billionaire co-founder of PayPal and defense contractor Palantir, which we will look at, with deep ties to fellow Trump supporter Elon Musk, who would go on to play an outsized role in helping Vance's career rocket. Does he owe people for what he's doing now? Of course he does. In his VP announcement on Truth Social, Trump praised Vance's very successful business career in technology and finance. However, President Joe Biden called out Vance for talking a big game about working people despite wanting to raise taxes on middle-class families while pushing more tax cuts for the rich. This is what always happens, folks. It's one big club. You think a billionaire like Peter Thiel is placing this person into position so that he can give you tax cuts and tax the rich or make it harder for the rich in any way? No, absolutely not. Of course, this is not the first time Thiel has helped propel those he favors into the spotlight. The 56-year-old, whose worth is just over $11 billion, according to Bloomberg, has a long history of putting figures of his choosing into the path of glory. Of course, it talks about examples here and so on, but anyway, the point is what? The point is the same message is being echoed over and over again, that Vance is owned by the powers that be. Here's another example of Vance being owned. Here he is posting on X, incredible to walk around Jerusalem, the eternal capital of Israel, and trace the footsteps of Christ today. What is he saying to you in this statement? The eternal capital of Israel. That means he is with the Zionists. He's on board with them. He's praising the Wailing Wall, putting a yarmulke on. Now let's get something really clear. If you're a professing Christian, okay, you're a professing Christian. You claim that you believe in Jesus Christ as your Savior, that he was crucified by the Jews, because it's documented. The Jews are the ones who said, crucify him. We reject him. Crucify him. And they mocked him. They pulled out his beard. They accused him of blasphemy. They beat him. So the Jews are the ones. Of course, the pagans also are guilty too, and that was the point, because Jesus is the sin offering. And in the Old Testament, the sin offering was designed in such a way that the people who were guilty were the ones that had to kill the sin offering so that you could be forgiven. So Jesus is the sin offering. So both the Gentiles and the Jews had to be guilty. But nonetheless, the Jews are the ones who are rejecting Christ, even to this day. And they have nothing but Antichrist things to say about Jesus. And you go to the Wailing Wall as a professing Christian who accepts Jesus' payment on your behalf, who accepts Jesus' suffering on your behalf at the hands of these people's ancestors. Of course, modern Jews today, that's questionable as well. But either way, Judaism is Antichrist. And here you are as a quote-unquote Christian. Of course, he's Catholic, so that doesn't count. But either way, Christian VP of the United States, who's very influential role and all about all this Christian stuff. And you're putting your hand at the Wailing Wall and wearing a yarmulke, basically paying subservience to the Zionist system, to this Antichrist system, when Jesus said that he is the temple and there's no way to the Father except through him. And here you are bowing down to this power. So he is obviously owned by the interests of the world. So is Trump. So is there's that meme that's like, it's like Bush, Clinton, Obama, Trump. Left, right, dark light. Same expletive, different president or something. I forget the exact wording, but it's different story or something like that. But they're all at the Wailing Wall. What does that tell you? It doesn't tell you, by the way, that the power of the world is Jewish. It doesn't tell you that, no. Because these people are papal puppets, and the papacy will convert the Jews, but the Jews have their play in this particular system. Of course, they're being exposed now, little by little. But it tells you that these people are playing ball. Because if you've watched my Great Delusion series and so on, what is the avenue? Why are these people playing ball with the Zionists? Because the Zionists need to be converted. They're going to bring peace and lure the Jews with the promise that they've always wanted, which is a golden age. Look at my series, The Great Delusion. It started with Napoleon, folks. Napoleon was a Jesuit operative. And you have these old memes, basically memes. I mean, they had these old, illustrations back then. Of course, they didn't have memes, but they had memes of their own in some sense, of Napoleon leading the Jews. And he's got like this wand and he's, leading them. And he's leading them to what? He's leading them to a pyramid with with rays of light coming out of it. And the Jews are being shown the light. And if you know the history, that Napoleon was about to declare a state of Israel for the Jews. Why? That was shortly after the Reformation and shortly after the Jesuits created their false version of the end times as a response to the Reformation, identifying them as the beast system. So they went double time. They were ready for a state of Israel with Napoleon in the 1800s. That's how quickly they worked on this stuff. And of course it failed because the British Freemasons attacked Napoleon and prevented him from proclaiming Israel, or I should say proclaiming a state of Israel. And of course, certain things had to move around, and I've talked about this, but they worked that angle. And 100 years later, you had the state of Israel through the Second World War and so on and so forth. So what is the point? The promise to the Jews, which they've always lusted after, from the days of Christ to the modern day, the Jews want political recognition, a fleshly salvation, a worldly peace, prosperity. That's what the Jews want. And they are going to give it to them so that they could convert them through a charismatic revival. This is exactly what's happening. The Jews are puppets of the papal system. And these puppets, like JD Vance, are doing the part of their puppet masters to warm up to the Jews and the Zionists because they're going to lead them into the light of Catholicism. That's what's happening. It sounds crazy, but really that's what you should see when you see these. You should not see JD Vance at the Wailing Wall and all these presidents of the Wailing Wall and say, oh yeah, the powers of the world are Jewish and the Jews control everything. No, that's not the conclusion. The Jews were nothing before the 1700s with the Rothschilds. They were nothing. The Rothschilds are the papal bankers, folks. They were recruited by the Jesuits. So they were propped up and they needed an illicit banking arm. So you got to learn your history and ultimately realize the trajectory of history is that the world will take the mark. Oh, here's another one. The billionaire who fueled JD Vance's rapid rise to the Trump VP spot. Analysis. Also from July. Former President Donald Trump's selection of Ohio GOP JD Vance to be his running mate shows one thing remains constant, even in a presidential race upended by an attempt to assassinate one candidate and doubts about whether the other is fit to run. Money in a presidential politics is still king. Vance, a relative newcomer to national politics, has assiduously courted billionaires and Silicon Valley titans to bankroll his unlikely rise from best-selling memoirist of despair, drugs, and generational poverty in Appalachia to a ticket that could seat him a heartbeat away from the presidency. During his rapid rise, he has emerged as an ardent and effective defender of Trump, putting an intellectual gloss on the former president's raw MAGA populism. We're going to read just how much hypocrisy comes in his current defense of Trump, because he had very many negative things to say early on. Anyway, moving on. But Vance may never have been in a serious consideration for the number 2 spot on the ticket had he not won elective office in a major Rust Belt state in the first place. And big donors, particularly from the tech sector, provided the rocket fuel he needed to advance in electoral politics. Vance's most prominent benefactor over the years is Peter Thiel, the iconoclastic tech pioneer and investor. Thiel hired Vance at his global investment firm in 2017, and then nurtured Vance's political rise, donating $15 million to his 2022 Ohio's campaign, and helping him win a closely fought GOP primary before going on to capture the seat in the general election. Groomed by the billionaires, here's Peter Thiel, who's co-founder and chairman of Palantir Technologies, which we're going to read about in just a second, but he is owned, folks. These people are owned. They're owned very deeply. Ohio primary results. Trump-backed JD Vance wins Republican Senate race. This is from May 4th, 2022. And again, it says this: Vance's victory is also a win for billionaire Peter Thiel, who is becoming more influential in conservative politics. Thiel gave at least $10 million to a super PAC supporting Vance, providing financial resources for pro-Vance advertisements when Vance's opponents were outraising him. Gosh, they're really intent on this guy. And he's really playing ball with them. You can see he hated Trump, and we're going to document that. He said nothing but hateful things toward Trump. And now suddenly he's converted to Catholicism. He's all about Christian or Catholic integralism, basically religious nationalism. He's playing ball with all these people. He's all about supporting, infiltration of government with Catholic morality. He's all about Trump. So he's playing ball very well. So they're all about him, which is a very interesting situation. So before we go to the next one, which I titled The Digital Inquisition, what are some things that we can take from all these articles? Well, right after the inflection point that we crossed with Trump, when people were solidified in their emotions, oh my gosh, Trump this, Trump that, right when they are ripe for the picking for a new narrative, let's put it that way, Trump reveals his pick for vice president, which is a militant deep state Catholic who is bought and paid for by all of the people who are going to surveil you and bring about the digital inquisition, which we'll look at in the next section. Vance's associations are very troublesome, and they ultimately prove the trajectory of history of where this is going. This is happening, folks. The world order is happening. The Great Reset is happening. It's not happening the way they've told you about it, because the people who are telling you about the Great Reset are the ones doing the Great Reset. Do you understand? That's the profound irony of all of this. They're pointing you to the people who are just getting thrown under the bus or whatever, playing their part. In fact, Klaus Schwab, I think now, there was some picture, gosh, I'm forgetting the name of it, but there was an article, Klaus Schwab is stepping down. He's played his part. He's stepping down, then he's going to be, just hanging out with everybody else now. So everybody plays their part. And when it's time to go from dark to light, okay, you play your part. If you don't play your part, then you're going to get destroyed and, we'll just kill you off. But either way, he's played his part. So Vance is a new Catholic. He's very militant about it, just like Candace Owens, just like Russell Brand. All these people flipped to Catholicism, and suddenly now they're just barking all day about Catholic values and the common good. Vance is owned by the people in power. He's owned by billionaires like Peter Thiel, who have very worrisome ties, which we're going to look at. Vance has ties to Silicon Valley, and he's going to be perfect for implementing the Mark of the Beast technology and implementing this image of the beast where there's going to be a religio-political system, religious nationalism, and you're going to see an integration of a digital currency, probably a digital ID. All of these things are going to come to a head with Vance's vice presidency, guaranteed for sure. All the people around Vance and Trump are Project 2025, Sabbath keeping, Sabbath law, of course not Sabbath, the real Sabbath keeping, but Sunday law people. And you've seen it from multiple places. So if you thought Trump was against the deep state, then hopefully he's shown his true colors and you can see the truth now. If anything, if you don't agree with me about the assassination attempt, then at the very least, his pick for vice president and how it confirms the trajectory of history and shows you that Trump plays ball according to what he's told to do, that should wake you up. Hopefully, it should wake you up. But anyway, remember a couple of other things too. Trump bragged about being the father of the vaccine. Trump abandoned the January 6th people in jail, and I don't know what they were doing them over there. But either way, that whole thing, that was staged too. And the people who were actually the victims of it suffered. He didn't do anything for those people. He chanted, "Lock her up" with Hillary, and he did nothing when he came to office. And many more other such things. Trump is a politician. He says one thing and he does another. Ultimately, Trump is playing ball according to what his Jesuit masters are telling him to do. Trump is owned. All these people are owned. Trump did not create his wealth out of ingenuity. Trump has countless bankruptcies, and he learned how to do various shenanigans from his father, and his father was owned by Zionist Jews. So ultimately, Trump is a businessman, but it doesn't mean he just is this rogue billionaire that's fighting against the deep state for you. The JD Vance pick for vice president proves that both sides are controlled by the media. It's just two wings of the same bird, folks. The Bible revealed to you this 2,500 years ago in the book of Daniel. Two kings eat at the same table. They work mischief at the same table. The JD Vance picks proves that Trump is a puppet of the Pope and the Jesuits and doing the Pope's bidding to bring about a one world system. And of course, America is key in that because America is the power that will convince the world through its resources and through its propaganda of this new thing. It's going to start here. And of course, the JD Vance pick proves the trajectory of history and the timing. It's perfect timing. Everything is flipping from dark to light. So now with that in mind, the next section of this is something I call the Digital Inquisition. I've talked about this before, but this is the future of history, folks, and it's coming on the pipeline. You are going to have a Digital Inquisition. That Digital Inquisition is going to involve obedience through AI, monitoring your behavior, possibly a digital ID, digital currency. Everything is going to be linked to a system. And they will create shenanigans and dialectics to make people accept such a system as a good thing. Trump is already talking about nationalizing Bitcoin. We talked about that last time. And all the Project 2025 people are abolish the Fed. It's evil, and we got to do a different system. Well, let's use this Bitcoin system. We need to nationalize Bitcoin. Yeah, that makes sense. All of this is headed towards the right, or I should say in the right direction. Yeah, the right, as in the political right, in a common direction is the word I was looking for. It's headed in the common direction, and that common direction is a new world order that will pay homage to the beast. And that is what that means is you will have a digital inquisition. Now, the question is, how long is it going to last? I don't think it's going to last too long, because once they start killing people and enforcing the mark or putting people in jail, you know that the bull judgments are going to drop pretty soon. So the good news is this is not like, it's not going to be 20 or 30 years of a digital inquisition. It will probably be a few years, but either way, the good news is that it's not going to last long. So anyway, here's a couple of important articles in that regard. This is from 2021, citizen crime tracking app funded by Peter Thiel scraps plans for an on-demand police force. The crowdsourcing crime tracking app Citizen, whose earliest backers include the venture capitalist billionaire Palantir co-founder Peter Thiel, is ditching plans to develop a private police force that could be summoned by users via smartphone app, CBS Money Watch has learned. The company began offering the service in Los Angeles last month as a pilot program. This is what they do, folks. They try things out. Okay, learn, try something different, try this, try that, experiment, and see how can we push this agenda. During the trial, the service, which included a company-branded squad car, was only available to company employees. For the service, Citizen partnered with a private firm called Los Angeles Professional Security, which describes itself as a provider of subscription law enforcement. Crime tracking app by Peter Thiel. Why is he developing a crime tracking app? But on Tuesday, Citizen ended the program, stating it has no plans to launch a similar service elsewhere. This was a small 30-day test that is now complete, a Citizen spokesperson told CBS. We have no plans to launch our own private security force and no ongoing relationship with LAPS. The spokesperson declined to say why the New York City-based company has decided not to pursue the service. The spokesperson had previously told CBS and other news outlets that Citizen envisioned launching a security service that could provide protection for users traveling at night, among other offerings. So they declined to tell him. They stopped, and ultimately, if you know these things, they're just trials. They learn through doing these little trials, but Peter Thiel was one of the people in this crime tracking app. Turning the tide on crime with predictive policing. This is before that, so the last article I read to you was in 2021. This is from 2019. And let's see, where is it at? Here it is. Although no country has put in place a national predictive policing program as of yet, keyword, predictive policing tools have been developed and deployed in several cities across the globe. For instance, in the United States, the company Palantir has developed and tested predictive policing tools in cities such as Chicago, Los Angeles, New Orleans, and New York as far back as 2012. They've been doing this for a while, folks. I'm sure they had it before that, but in 2012 they started practicing on actual society, but the military's had these types of things for a while. Unfortunately, however, precisely how these tools generate a prediction and how law enforcement agencies act upon these predictions are all too often not transparent. I covered some of this in the first Venerable Day of the Sun, where they were using these predictive things to analyze behavior of people walking in a neighborhood, and they figured out exactly where the drugs were being sold in like a couple minutes based on just analyzing hours and hours of patterns of movement. Rather than having to sit there with a camera and watch, they get the AI to do it, and they could tell you patterns. Oh, the most likely place is here, and that's where they do the drug bust. It's profound. So they've been using this for a while, folks, and they're slowly exporting it to mainstream. The effects of all this can potentially be extremely damaging, jeopardizing not only to the rule of law and fundamental human rights, but even undermining faith in law enforcement as an institution. For instance, cases have already been brought against the U.S. police departments in Chicago, Los Angeles, New Orleans, and New York regarding the use of Palantir's predictive policing tool, citing accusations of bias and the lack of transparency in its use. That was 5 years ago, this article. Do you think that they scrapped these programs? Or have they been developing them and infiltrating more and more all these places with secret society members to get them passed and approved of and so on? I think the latter is the truth. But anyway, this is from The Verge. Palantir has secretly been using New Orleans to test its predictive policing technology. This is from 2018. So even before that. I don't think I highlighted anything in here, but just they have these little apps and they have an integrated system. Now look, you thought China was the only one doing these things? No, China is a ground, it's a petri dish to experiment with all these things that they're going to bring to the rest of the world. And of course, they're already bringing it to the rest of the world through people like Palantir and so on. They're not going to resist the temptation to control every aspect of your life, folks. The New World Order is coming. The Bible told you about it. If you don't participate spiritually, you will not be able to buy or sell. How do you think the devil can enforce such a system? Unless he has complete control through a digital economy. This is from 2023 now. Predictive policing in LA. LAPD employs Palantir for surveillance. So the answer to my previous question, the articles from 4, 5, 6 years ago where, they were getting sued and so on, did Palantir stop or did they continue? No, here's an answer for you from last year. Predictive policing in LA. LAPD employs Palantir for surveillance. So no, they did not stop. They continued. Here's another one from Forbes. This is titled, How a Deviant Philosopher Built a Palantir, a CIA-Funded Data Mining Juggernaut. Did you know the CIA had its hand in doing Palantir? Palantir lives the realities of its customers, the NSA, the FBI, and the CIA. Oh no, not one of these again. All right, finally figure out how to close that stupid thing. Oh, where were we here? Palantir lives the realities of its customers, the NSA, the FBI, and the CIA, an early investor through its InQtel venture fund. Interesting name there. Along with an alphabet soup of other U.S. counterterrorism and military agencies. So is Palantir owned by the military-industrial complex? Are they an extension of that? The answer is yes. In the last 5 years, Palantir has become the go-to company for mining massive data sets for intelligence and law enforcement applications with a slick software interface and coders who parachute into clients' headquarters to customize its programs. Palantir turns messy swamps of information into intuitively visualized maps, histograms, and link charts. Give its so-called forward-deployed engineers a few days to crawl, tag, and integrate every scrap of a customer's data, and Palantir can elucidate problems as disparate as terrorism, disaster response, and human trafficking. Do they actually use it to stop those things? I don't think so, anyway. Palantir's advisors include Condoleezza Rice and former CIA Director George Tenet, who says in an interview that, I wish we had a tool of its power before 9/11. Oh, goodness. General David Petraeus, the most recent former CIA chief, describes Palantir to Forbes as a better mousetrap when a better mousetrap was needed, and calls CARP sheer brilliance. So, Petraeus, Condoleezza Rice, all these deep state military industrial complex people who everybody knows now are all about Palantir. They're loving it. They are just all over it. That should tell you everything. Then Palantir is a Peter Thiel operation, and it has done predictive programming, tracking behavior, New World Order stuff. And Peter Thiel is the reason that JD Vance is the pick. He's been funded by Peter Thiel millions of dollars to push him to the top, and now he's Trump's right-hand man. Add one and one together, what do you get? What you get is the Bible is true about when it tells you the world will marvel after the beast and be forced to take its mark. So you need to understand that all of these things are related. You saw JD Vance's associations. You see the associations of Palantir and Peter Thiel and all the dubious worldly New World Order stuff that he's doing through these companies. It's all military-industrial complex stuff because ultimately the Great Reset is going to happen. The New World Order will happen, folks. You cannot vote it away. It's happening, and it's happening very soon. These people are gearing up to enforce behavior tracking using AI and a digital system, a monetary system They're gearing up to do that. This is going to happen. It's going to happen in the next couple of years, and eventually you're going to see other things paralleling that, like the conversion of the Jews, the Middle East crisis being resolved, quote unquote, the Muslims converting. You're going to see propaganda against Sabbath keeping, and once you start seeing that, you're going to really start seeing enforcement of Sunday laws. Once they start coming after Sabbath keepers, you will know that the time is very short. I don't know how much time we have, but I know that we don't have more than 10 years at this point. I really just don't see that happening because these things are moving so fast. So, conclusion, Palantir is owned by the CIA, the FBI, the military-industrial complex. Peter Thiel is in the club. He's a billionaire. Peter Thiel owns JD Vance. JD Vance is a militant Catholic surrounded by people who want to enforce Sabbath or Sunday laws. Just do the math. 1 + 1 = 2. It's pretty clear. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. What's coming is a digital inquisition, because they're going to use things like the blockchain and AI once those things have successfully been transferred to moral issues and everybody's on board with, yeah, we need to make these a moral issue. AI needs to be a moral issue. It needs to be for the common good. Blockchain needs to be for the common good. Once that transition has been successfully made, just like with climate change now, it's a moral issue. They're going to create the image of the beast and export it to the rest of the world. And that's going to happen, within the next 5 years, for sure. I don't see that happening I don't see it happening over like a long period of time. I see this happening in the next 5 years, folks. Once Trump comes back to power, they're going to work really, really quickly. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how many of these Venerable Day of the Sun episodes I have to share with you, but nonetheless, hopefully these are waking you up. Now, the last section I want to cover, and this will be a short section, is titled Hypocrisy. And of course, the point of that is to show you just that two kings are working mischief at the same table, which is what the Bible tells you. This is from The Guardian. JD Vance, this is from, when is it from? July 24. JD Vance once worried Trump was America's Hitler. Now his own authoritarian leanings come into view. JD Vance once feared Donald Trump might be America's Hitler. Last Saturday, the Ohio senator claimed Democrats calling Trump an authoritarian fascist who must be stopped at all costs caused the assassination attempt the former president survived. So he used to call Trump Hitler. Now he's upset that the Democrats are calling Trump Hitler. Two kings, same table. But on Monday, after Trump made Vance his vice presidential pick, worries about Vance's own authoritarian leanings come straight to the foray. Quote, Trump picked JD Vance as his running mate because Vance will do what Mike Pence wouldn't on January 6th, bend over backwards to enable Trump and his extreme MAGA agenda, even if it means breaking the law and no matter the harm to the American people. Jen O'Malley Dillon, Joe Biden's re-election campaign chair, told reporters. Now, of course, look, the left is telling on the right and the right is telling on the left. Mutual exposition. So eat the meat, spit out the bones. But look at, here's Trump with his ear thing, and of course everybody's paying him tribute with that. But JD Vance called Trump America's Hitler, and now he's all the way around, 180 on that. This is from Politico. And again, these are liberal sites, but they're exposing to you some truth, which is important. You have to separate yourself from the duality, and you have to look at both sides talking about each other. That's how you learn the truth. Otherwise, if you pick a side, then you're caught into the dualistic game. This is from Politico, notoriously liberal, but it says, I'm never a Trump guy. All of JD Vance's Trump quotes that could come back to bite him. Let's see. I've highlighted these, I think. I'm never a Trump guy. My God, what an idiot. America's Hitler. These are all cited. Mr. Trump is unfit for our nation's highest office. I can't stomach Trump. And so on. So these are some pretty significant things that he said within the last, couple of years in 2020, 2019, whatever that year. Actually, before I think he was converted to Catholicism. But either way, they're very recent. Doesn't matter. They're very recent. And now he's all about Trump. Elon Musk called Trump a stone-cold loser, according to New York Times reporting on billionaire's rocky relationship with ex-president. This is July 24th. So Elon Musk called Trump a loser. The New York Times reported on Thursday that billionaire Trump donor Elon Musk described former President Donald Trump as a stone-cold loser in 2020 and criticized his character. According to the Times, which cited an unnamed source close to Musk, the billionaire told associates in 2016 that Trump's victory in the election against Hillary Clinton was proof that they were living in a simulation. Very upset that Trump won. The Times also reported that in 2020, a private conversation with another associate, Musk called Trump a stone-cold loser and predicted that Mr. Trump's days as a political force were finished. So Trump was a loser, according to Elon Musk a couple years ago. Now, of course, what does Elon Musk do? He creates a super PAC and helps donate a ton of money. Of course, the Wall Street Journal reported that Trump was donating $45 million a month to, or Musk was donating $45 million to Trump a month. In this article, he denies it. But the point is that nevertheless, he did start a super PAC, which is it has unlimited funding for Trump, and he's all on the Trump train. So do the math, folks. On one side, you say you can't stomach Trump. He's a loser. He's this, he's that. And now a couple years later, all about it. I'm going to throw millions of dollars at this person, and I'm going to help this person succeed. How does that work, I wonder? I really do. And of course, you know the answer, which is that secret societies are dualistic, and these people follow the instructions of their masters. Okay, you're a white pawn. You're going to go to the dark side. Okay, you're a dark side. You're going to go to the white side now. Oh, you don't want to play ball? Okay, we'll kill you. We'll find a way to, get you out of the club. Tucker Carlson hails Trump as the bravest man in Republican convention speech after telling staffer, "I hate him passionately." Is this two kings working at the same table, working mischief? Former Fox News host Tucker Carlson addressed the Republican National Convention on the fourth and final night on Thursday, where he lauded a man of whom he once said, "I hate him passionately." Before Donald Trump accepted the Republican nomination, Carlson addressed the crowd in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and hailed the former president as the bravest man. Such a brave man that I just hate so passionately. And of course, Carlson is got that Kabbalah bracelet, and we've talked about that before, but these people are secret society members, folks. You cannot say that you hate a person passionately. Of course, I think they talk about some other stuff too. I think, did it say anything here? Yeah, it said something like, I didn't highlight this part, but it said like, last year Carlson was revealed to have said several unflattering things about Trump in private. According to texts included a court filing by Dominion Voting Systems in its defamation lawsuit against Fox News, Carlson repeatedly bashed the ex-president. "We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights," he texted a staffer on January 4th, 2021, a couple years ago, after the lame duck Trump lost in 2020 election. "I truly can't wait," he added. After receiving a reply from the staffer, Carlson responded, "I hate him passionately." In another correspondence, Carlson told his producer that Trump is a, quote, demonic force, a destroyer. "I hate him passionately. He's a demonic force, a destroyer." Dominion sued Fox News and yada, yada, yada. So Carlson is saying that Trump is a destroyer and he's a demonic force and he hates him passionately. How do you go from that to, oh, he's the bravest man in front of the Republican National Convention wearing your little Kabbalah bracelet, and you tell me, is Carlson part of the club? Yes, he's part of the club. He just does what he's told, folks. These people are promised a beautiful life as long as you just do what we say. If you're going to go left, go left. If you're going to go right, go right. You don't have a will of your own. You do what you're told. As long as you do that, you can get all the cushy benefits you want. You can have $400 million contracts. You can have, all interviews with presidents. Whatever you want to do, you can do. But you got to do what we tell you to do. That's the way it goes. Couple more here. Two more things. This is, this is Zuckerberg calling Trump bad something. Let's see.
I mean, on a personal note, it's, seeing Donald Trump get up after getting shot in the face and pump his fist in the air with the American flag is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life. But look, I mean, it's, and I think, look, it's, at some level as an American, it's like hard.
So now really quick, Zuckerberg was very deep state. We all know that. There's that interview with him with his jacket with the Freemason sign that they made him took off and so on. You know that Zuckerberg was influencing political perceptions and so on. And now he's presenting to you that he is accepting the counter narrative. So there's two narratives. There's actually three possibilities, remember, but there's two narratives. There's the liberal narrative that, it was just some crazy guy. There's no relationship. Then there's the counter narrative, which, that this was an inside job and Trump is this victorious hero and so on. Is Zuckerberg pointing to that reality that, gosh, Trump is just badass. he's really fighting that. Whatever happened to him, he just stood up and he pumped his fist. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Is he endorsing Trump? He is coming from dark to light. Now, who knows what his role will be, but this is just another proof that his two kings...
To not get kind of emotional about that spirit in that fight. And I think that that's why a lot of people like the guy. I mean...
So a lot of people get emotional, and that's the point. Here's one for today. Certainly it's been a lot. Oh, gosh. This is a comparison between the Republican National Convention and Idiocracy in 2006. Let's see. Where they had Hulk Hogan at like, oh my gosh. All right.
He always finds a way to win. And when he's back in our White House, America is going to start winning again.
He's got a higher IQ than any man alive. He's going to fix everything.
The price of food and gas and housing is out of control. And the only person who can clean this up is Donald Trump.
He'll fix the problems with all the dead crops. He's going to make them grow again.
He's going to win.
Did you hear that? Idiocracy. Make them grow again. That's an appeal to the MAGA slogan.
In November, and we're all going to be champions again when he wins.
Give him my word. He's going to fix that comedy.
Let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
That's what I thought.
Oh, Lord Almighty, save us all from this delusion. Save us all from this great delusion, Lord, and give supernatural seeing and hearing and understanding to more of your people that they may come out of this delusion and be saved. You know, the conservative right is all about predictive programming when the liberals do it. But when predictive programming is being done to show you a false light system that's coming and the delusion these people are under, oh no, there's no relationship. You're just mocking us. There's no relationship. But there's all this predictive programming for the liberal stuff. You see, there's no consistent standard that they use. And this is why it's a delusion. This is why you know there's an idol situation happening. There's an idol that is preventing them from seeing logically. They're using their emotions. They're idolizing this man. And as a result, they make exceptions for everything. Constant pieces of evidence I've shown you where there is not a consistent standard being used. Again, just use the same standard, folks. If it had happened to Biden, what would you have said? You said it was faked. But to Trump, no, it's real. If you see predictive programming, the deep state is doing predictive programming to get people to get used to it. Oh, but then if you see Idiocracy, and it's literally being played out to you in front of you with a with an actor, a wrestling actor, making a speech at the, I think that was a Republican National Convention, I forget. Anyway, he's a wrestling actor, folks. His career has been dedicated to fakery and emotional, whoa, yeah, wrestling. Trump was involved with wrestling too, with World Wrestling Federation or whatever. It's all a show, folks. You are in the movie Idiocracy. Hopefully you can step out of it by now. But it just goes to show you that, look, both sides are controlled. They really are. They really are. There's pawns on both sides. They do what they're told. They flip from dark to light at the right timing, according to their puppet masters who have the big picture. Because these people don't have the big picture. They have part of the picture, and they're initiated at different levels. But the big picture is held by Satan and, of course, his minions, like the Pope and all these, top-level people. But anyway, they do what they're told. And if this doesn't prove to you that both sides are controlled, I don't know what will. I really don't. They are all secret society members, and they're members of a religion that is dualistic, and they all play their part. They go up in the ranks, they get revealed new information, new privileges, new, perks, new benefits. I'm sure that Vance's conversion to Catholicism was an initiation into the next level. And look at all the perks he's getting. And of course, he's playing ball with those perks. So it all works this way, folks. The cost of obedience to the devil is your life. Jesus says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? And this is exactly the story of all these people. Vance was super critical of Trump. and was a never Trumper. Now suddenly he converts to Catholicism. He gets propped up by Thiel, and he's all 100% Trump, and he's calling the people who are against Trump, evil and so on. Tucker Carlson believed Trump was demonically possessed and a destroyer, and he hated him passionately, but now he's the bravest man. Oh, he's just so brave. This is crazy. This is the delusion, folks. And of course, the delusion, these people are already deluded because they're in secret societies, but the delusion on our part is believing they're genuine, believing that Tucker Carlson is genuine when he says one thing and does another a couple years later. You cannot go from saying, this man is demonically possessed and I believe that, and I hate him passionately, to, oh, he's the bravest man and I'm willing to acknowledge him and propel him forward in the public eye, literally like 2 years later. That means that you don't have discernment. At the very least, of course, we know the truth here, but at the very least, it shows that you just don't have discernment. If you can flip emotions like this, flip-flop, 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 it means you don't have discernment. But what it likely is that you've been initiated and you've been told what to think and what to say, and now that part is done. Now it's time to swing from dark to light because we've crossed an inflection point. The narrative that Trump almost got killed is designed to put people in their emotions, and the whole world is just marveling at these signs and wonders and is going to listen to the image of the beast and take it on. And of course, the new pope that's coming just in time that's going to be conservative. It all comes together, folks. It really is. So final thoughts. Let's put this together. Let's wrap this up. As crazy as all this sounds, I know it's certainly been a lot. You can imagine how I'm shuttling all these articles that people send me, all the things that I see, into all these notes and things to organize them for you. It's been crazy. It's been a crazy time, and it's probably only going to get crazier. But as crazy as all of this sounds, I want you to rejoice. I really do. The Bible tells us to rejoice in our sufferings, and it gives examples of people rejoicing that they were counted worthy to suffer, because it means that God is working in your life and conforming you to the image of Christ, giving you supernatural awareness. And what that means is he's not going to let you go. It confirms your election. It confirms that God has not created you to destroy you, but he's called you into existence to reveal the infinite magnificence of himself. And you will live forever. That is a grounds for major rejoice. And evil reveals that because God told you about it in advance. God is going to come and destroy this system. And all of this means that God is real. He's true, that Jesus died, he resurrected, and he's coming back, and he will judge the world. He will renew the world. All these things are true, folks. This is the ultimate end of all of this evil stuff. So I know that I cover a lot of crazy things. I know that I go very deep, but my goal ultimately is that you take all of these things to heart and take them one step further. Do not get obsessed about secret societies, about all the evil that's happening and who's doing what. Those are necessary to the point where they lead you back to God. Do you understand? These are necessary to lead you back to what? That the Bible is true, that we don't have a lot of time left, that Jesus is returning, and therefore he's going to resurrect you, and you're going to spend eternity with him. This is the hope of the gospel, folks. If it doesn't lead you back to that, then you are getting lost in the storm. Don't get lost in the storm. These things are there so you are not deceived. I'm reporting these things to you so you're not deceived, so you can help others to not be deceived. But really, rejoice. Rejoice because there's not a lot of time. The Bible is true. And our blessed hope is right on the horizon, folks. It really is. I will never get over that. It's so profound. It really is. And if it doesn't strike you as profound, then you need to meditate on that more. But until then, we participate in this system, in this world, in helping God. Of course, God doesn't need help, but in participating in drawing the elect out of Babylon. Like I said at the beginning, God does not give you all of this knowledge and information for you to sit on it and do nothing. God has given you supernatural awareness to rescue you, but also to be participant actively in him drawing the elect out of Babylon. He doesn't need your help, but we are called to participate. That is the mystery of faith, and it's a profound mystery. God has not given you resources and knowledge and wisdom to keep it for yourself. So don't keep it for yourself. Use these as an opportunity to reach other people in your conversations. You can also join the chat on the website. That's danceoflife.com. That's where people can contribute links, ask questions, chat with other people, just get in touch with like-minded people because they're going to be more and more craziness, and it's good to have people to talk to. It just is, like-minded people. Above all, remember to take it one day at a time. I have plans in my life, but they're not crazy plans. I am really just trying to take it one day at a time because the future is just so crazy. 20 years ago, you could have said, well, in 5 years, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, and probably you would have been all right. Today, 5 years, of course, we know the general direction it's going, but there's so many crazy things happening that it's impossible to plan your life. It really is. You have to just surrender to God, and I think that's by design. I think that this craziness that God has decreed is by design so that you can surrender to Him and let Him take the wheel. So I hope that will remind you to do so, to take it one day at a time. That's what matters most. Read your Bible, have a daily habit of prayer. If you need help with that, go to my website or go to the playlist titled Encouragement on YouTube. There's a lot of resources there to help you focus on the gospel, to have some encouragement so you don't lose your mind. And of course, you also have the chat as well. There's no political solution to this situation. You're not going to vote out the devil. Voting and obsessing over, these types of material outcomes is like literally believing that it is freedom to choose the color of the suit you want the devil to wear to your execution. Oh, I don't want a black suit. Have him wear a white suit. That'll be better. That's not freedom, folks. Voting is nonsense. So get out of that rat race. Voting is useless. There's no point to vote. Voting is not something that will ever change because the outcome's predetermined. It's predetermined by God as the primary cause, and it's predetermined by the secondary causes, which is the secret societies of the world, and ultimately the papacy, who controls when things come to power and when things are out of power. They control all the elections. There's no such thing as elections. If you had a group of 10 people around you and you voted, then yeah, voting matters, but not on the scale of a country and so on. These things are illusions. So don't get stuck. Don't get deceived by these libertarian free will synergistic illusions, because this is what's rallying the world into this situation. And as the election gets closer, it's going to get only crazier, crazier. Help people wake up instead. Help them wake up from this trance. Help them see the truth of what's coming with history, with the Bible, so that they aren't deceived by the Great Delusion. Take care, God bless, and we'll see you next time.